Good morning, campers. Is it Wednesday now, finally?
It is Wednesday.
It's Ash Wednesday, isn't it? Or is it? No, that's not for a while.
Yeah, Tuesday was yesterday.
That's another month and change from now, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember anymore. What day is it? It's the 22nd. Wow. I know on the 30th, we're going to get that news about the Netflix Snyder thing. So I'm just waiting in anticipation. So. Also joining us this morning, we have another guest in the background. So let's introduce who we've got here. We have Culture Casino with us. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It's been a lovely morning so far.
I hope you're full of coffee.
I have more. I have in reserve. I have coffee in reserve. Yeah,
good. And we also have two Canadians with us. Andre, the boss man, who I forgot to introduce. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, doing excellent. No raspy voice or anything. So yeah, all well here from the Great White North, that is the Norwegian mountains where I am right now.
Oh, just rub it in, why don't you? And we have our two Canadian script doctor, who still has a bushy beard. How are you doing?
I'm staying warm on this -4-degree weather I'm in.
Tell me about it. It's snowing here today. I'm like, fuck Wisconsin. Also joining us, we have Paul Chato. Oh, call me Chato. How are you doing?
Good. Very good. Having fun. Reconnected with
You're eating again as usual.
Well, it's lunch. I mean, I got a company to run, and this is I'm doing this on my spare time.
You dressed up. You must have had a meeting today. You were just about to get into or something. Or
I had, I like to dress up for my Zoom meetings. Look presentable.
Just from the top up, right down.
Yeah, I'm not wearing any pants.
Shorts.
Not wearing any pants.
As we'd expect from you.
No, well, what's out? That's the way they did it.
We'd be disappointed if you were. Unless they were clown pants or something.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
I'm eating while doing your show.
Looks like you're having pizza.
Yeah, I'm having pizza.
Nice. What kind of pizza?
Oh, it's one of those Oetkers, make your own. No, it's not anything like a, Mama Leone's or something special like that. It's just one of those frozen.
These brands are like really like falling on deaf ears right here. Those are neither one of those brands are ones we have here in the U.S.
Oetkers? I think you have Oetkers in the United States.
Not here anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's.
I'm sure we have an equivalent, but yeah.
Yeah, we have your pizza chains up here, like not Mama's Pizza. What's
Pizza Hut?
Pizza Hut.
There's Pizza Hut, pizza. Then there's the
Little Caesars.
Little Caesars.
Domino's.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, we have those.
Yeah, a few of those kinds. I wouldn't say we have decent pizza places in the U.S. unless you go to an actual mom and pop pizza place, pretty much.
We have we have a chain from Montreal. A lot of good entrepreneurial food comes from Quebec. Industria pizzas. They are pretty damn good.
There was this chain that was making some waves for a while called like Uno's, I think it was. And they had like this deep dish Chicago style small pan pizza thing. But then they kind of went away. I don't know what happened.
I'm a thin crust. The deep dish is just bread.
My answer to that is yes. just as long as it's pizza and it doesn't have too much fruit on it or something, I'm fine.
But you get those deep dish pizzas with the tons of grease, and it's all just fried bread, and those are good.
AKA Pizza Hut, basically. Yeah, they fry their stuff in like a pound of fat.
Put a bunch of cheese and pepperoni in it.
Yeah, the cheese.
No, well, they actually literally they have like a cup of oil that they put in the bottom, and I'm not even exaggerating. It's a literal cup, like the measuring cup of oil they put in the bottom of their pan when they fry it basically fries the pizza when they're baking it. Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say they're good. But
they can be, but they're horrible for you.
I can't.
This is my problem too. Bread is like my favorite food group. Steak. But anyway, off of the food before I get too hungry.
Nice to be here. We're starting with you can clip out the food section there, Andre.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys are doing
Culture
very well with your clipped out segments. I watch your traffic. Holy smokes.
we keep it up, Culture's going to have his way. He's been trying to get me to make a channel called Midnight Snacks forever.
Yes.
Yep, that's true.
Well, we can test it out in one of these clips here. Yeah, the clips are fun, but they're actually, you wouldn't think so, but it's time consuming to find
It
just
is.
the right ones.
Yeah, and you
Even
can sit
though
there all
there's
day
very
long
little
and
edited in them.
mess around with them. But yeah, I had some fun making some of the thumbs yesterday. I don't know if you all noticed how snazzy they were.
Yeah, they were good. I had a fun one with this morning. My thumb that I did for Kami.
Kami
the-
Last of Us. Yeah.
Episode 6. Oy.
You actually made it on a few of those thumbs, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a new episode of The Last of Us, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
was there?
Since the one that you discussed
Yes,
with
since
Chris
Sunday.
on Monday.
Yeah, no, I mean the one on I just only got to doing the review of the Sunday episode last night and then today. I mean, you know what? I'm a busy person. I've got other things to do. I'm trying to find a 10 gigabit NAS. You know, exciting
Hey.
life.
That's important.
Why
shit.
only? Okay, if you're getting a NAS, why only 10 gigabyte?
No, 10 gigabit Ethernet NAS. Not size.
Okay.
Okay, 10
I thought-
gigabits.
yeah,
So
okay,
I can
yeah,
have
that
faster.
makes sense.
He's just talking about the cord.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
can. No, I'm talking about the transmission speed.
Of
going
course,
to
yeah,
10
yeah,
sorry,
that's
gigabit
what
yeah,
I
I
meant.
was-
Yeah.
And I was thinking terabytes. I was thinking, why would you just get 10 terabytes? So yeah, sorry about that.
He's just
Oh, I
talking
have
power.
I have right now a 48 terabyte NAS.
See,
but
that's
it's
more
not-
like it. If you're
It's
gonna,
not fast.
like if you're gonna have a NAS, go big.
I agree.
I
So I'm
don't
looking
have
for a
any
new one,
NAS.
but the transmission speed, I want to be able to edit on it remotely.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
So get it
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Let's see what the audience is talking about. We got Dash Attack in the house. He's VTWEN, it says here. Sends in $4.99. It says, Tom Hardy confirms. Venom 3 is in pre-production. Superhero movies may be dead, but anti-hero movies may be an exception. I know Venom 2 was meh, but still. Yeah, no surprise here that Venom 3 is now in pre-production. Of
Yeah,
course,
I'm glad you
pre-production.
brought this up, Dash Attack,
Yeah.
because that was actually something that we were going to talk about later today anyway. So yeah, Tom Hardy's Venom, which is the foundational part of what I like to call the Sony Venomverse, the Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man. Part 3 is in development, but Part 2 really wasn't all that, was it?
No.
So how excited are we for Venom Part 3 after the, I think we can say pretty universal disappointment that was Venom versus Carnage?
Who are you asking?
Well, anyone. Tom, you were talking already, so let's begin with you.
He's gone.
Well, he
getting
was so
his pizza.
excited. Yeah.
I'll jump in. I wasn't
No, I
a
heard
huge
that.
fan of Venom 1 or 2, but Tom Hardy is so much fun to watch that I would literally watch 3 just for Tom Hardy. His commitment to the role is so complete, and he's such a good actor. I'm actually shocked he agreed to number 3 because number 2 was really bad.
Oh, it's called money.
I guess so. But I really enjoy his performance as Venom. And if they, third time's a charm, they can get it working. Although I think Venom 1 did quite well on the box office.
Actually,
did,
the
yeah.
second one didn't the second one do better than the first one, or was it the other way around?
It may have, but only on the strength of the first one.
Correct.
Which is going to be a challenge for the third one because
Yep.
no one liked the second one.
That's
No
that's
one
the problem.
liked Venom versus Carnage, and I was frightfully directed since it was directed by Andy Serkis, who's only going to show that he's
I didn't hate it, but
better
also
actor than he's a filmmaker.
I didn't read all the comics and stuff like you probably did, Andre. That's probably why.
Yeah, I did read quite a few of the Venom comics. Like for a while there in the 90s, when I didn't know better, he was my favorite character for a very limited while there. But during that period, I grew quite fond of the character, and the movie Venom versus Carnage, or the first movie for that matter, is it true to the comics? No. Is Tom Hardy a fair representation of Eddie Brock from the comics? No. but it's its own thing, and it's a really cool its own thing. I just wish that the second movie hadn't been the letdown that it was. I mean, what a waste of Carnage and Cletus Cassidy and Woody Harrelson all rolled into one.
Yeah, it made less, but it also got released during, well, just before Spider-Man No Way Home, did it? I think it was.
Yeah.
Or was it the year before? I'm trying to remember now.
Quite a bit before.
It was released around that time. Not because
So it was the October before.
The post-credit scene tied in with the Spider-Man No Way Home, because that was basically the post-credit scene for Venom Let There Be Carnage was him being transported into the MCU. And one of the post-credit scenes for Spider-Man No Way Home was Eddie Brock being sent back to his own universe. So
for no good reason, basically.
We missed his misadventures in the MCU.
You know, I still say the one missing scene from Spider-Man No Way Home would have been a great end credit scene. Would have been Tom Hardy's Venom walking around the corner and he sees Spider-Man 3's version of Venom's crawling on the wall. You don't even have to get Topher, right? You just do the CGI Venom from that, and you have Venom shoot out of his back and just eat him and be like, he tasted funny, and then just move on.
And thanks to Natasha, we have the box office here. The first Venom did 856 million worldwide.
Wow.
Venom 2, well,
Yeah.
wait with your wows, that one did 506.9 million. So quite a bit down, which there may be many reasons for. You would have the repercussions of the lockdowns, which were being eased, but they weren't completely over. That, coupled with word of mouth, is what no doubt did that movie in.
Yeah.
I remember now. It came just a little bit before. It came a month before the Ghostbusters Afterlife, is when Venom Let There Be Carnage was released.
Yeah, it did.
And that was just like in that period where things were reopening, but many were skeptical about going to theaters. Let's be honest, the selection of available movies was, apart from a few notable exceptions, pretty dire.
Yep.
Yeah. And all I know is that, because I was disappointed by how Ghostbusters did, but I was still glad it did okay. But the video must have done very well because they are rushing into production on the second one. We may talk about that, or the third one, I should say. Fourth one, whatever it is now. The second one of these new movies. We'll get into that possibly later. We got OC Gigan here who says, "Hey, Culture, great interview with Gordon Graders."
Thank you for that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to talk to them. They were gracious enough to give me a little over an hour of their time. There was very little edited from that video. I think like maybe 25, 30 seconds total. They gave it their all. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. They are great creators. They give pretty good advice, when it comes to, kind of putting your own film crew together, et cetera, et cetera. So the last 20 minutes of that specifically will be helpful to people who are looking to do their own thing. And let me tell you, we need more and more of that. So, I had a good time doing that interview.
You asked great questions.
Thank you.
That's what made the interview good, is that you asked great questions.
When you asked them what their favorite color was, I thought it was very insightful.
Yes.
I don't remember
What they had for
asking that.
breakfast.
If you were a tree, what type of tree? Brilliant questions.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, yeah,
Absolutely.
I did the opposite of between two ferns. Okay, so yeah.
Dr. Longdongler's here, and he sends us a thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. There's almost 1,000 of you watching. And if a bunch of you hit it right now, that might make YouTube go, what is going on? So that'd be awesome. Then we got Waltman here who says, turns out the Canadian Royals will not sue. Well,
Wow.
I don't think they can. But
Well, Tom, let's first, for those who are just listening, what's this about? Who are the Canadian Royals and who would they sue and why?
they are not South Park's buddy, eh?
Why are we getting inflicted?
Okay.
With
Last week, we had a new episode of South Park, and in typical South Park fashion, they were making fun of the royal children, namely Harry and what is it, Meghan or whatever the hell her name is.
Megan,
But they said they were from Canada. Yeah. instead of Great Britain or whatever. So like they're Canadian royalty. And the short version is they move it across the street from Kyle, and Kyle keeps griping about them. So it's just leading up to a joke so they can say, all you ever do is talk about the royals, basically. But it's hilarious as hell. So yeah, evidently they didn't like their portrayal, and they tried to threaten to sue. And you know, people have threatened to sue Trey and Matt in the past. Hell, people have tried to threaten to kill Trey and Matt in the past. And they have said, fuck off. We're just going to keep doing what we do. The only time anybody ever stopped them was Comedy Central when they covered up Muhammad on that one episode against their wishes. And that was because they actually got death threats at Comedy Central proper. But in this instance, I'm sure they were just giggling about the whole thing because they knew there was nothing they could do. It's called satire. Plus, they're public figures. There's not a lot they can do about that. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. What's your guys' take on all that? It was actually a pretty decent episode, but yeah.
I saw the clips. I thought it was funny. It was very good. They deserved it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anybody who likes them. I know that there are people who are enthralled with them for no other reason than they are celebrity. That is a function of fame. So there are going to be people who ignore the worst of many individuals just because, you know, they're in love with their celebrity or they're enthralled by it. These two people are I don't know. Can I say they're morons without getting us sued?
You might just more or less piss people off. That's about it. And who cares? Like, I don't
They
think there's a
deserve
law
they deserve the treatment.
Well, then again, you're in Canada. I don't know. Can you?
They deserve the Matt and Trey treatment. So
absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. I mean, a lot of their notoriety has not come from Canada. It's come from careening around the United States, going on Oprah, telling their sad little tales of victimhood and racism and it's so patently, ridiculously, transparently, ironically dumb. I don't know how they wouldn't see it. Again, that also depends on their circle of friends and whether their circle of friends are pumping them up. I have seen that with bad performers with a fairly sizable posse who will go, oh, that the audience was horrible. You were brilliant. You were just a wonderful person. And you know, I'm sure they've got a sycophantic posse telling them, yeah, you're fab.
Oh, yes. They have a huge entourage, I'm sure. Of people
Canada
entourage of enablers. Yeah. Well, not only that, like the royal family is kind of, to a shareable degree, kind of ignored Canada for the last 100 years. So I mean,
good.
And we don't mind. They really don't. They're welcome to.
Oh, Harry trained here.
He did
in a helicopter. I mean, he actually got good marks as a.
But the Queen's visited the United States more than she has Canada.
I guess. I mean, they send Charles here a lot.
Nobody wants Charles.
I was just going to say, is that really a good thing? I mean,
I
that is no way to talk about your king.
Yeah, that's your king, guys.
Yeah, you've got Charles in charge now.
That's right.
Charles in charge.
I'd be happy if the Pope came here less.
So yeah. Can we get a fuck you, buddy?
There you go.
Anyway, it's a very hilarious episode, and rightfully so. They're being made fun of. Their privacy tour thing was hilarious.
Yeah, it was very good.
I did.
We just want privacy, buddy.
I did enjoy like their take on the title of the Prince's book. Original title Spare should have been called Jealous, but yeah, as you pointed out, that's perfect. That's kind of what it was, and I haven't followed in detail.
Low-hanging fruit that the satire was easy. Like there was nothing there that was difficult to write.
No, this is probably one of the more easier episodes for them, but at the same time, it's like classic South Park and right?
Needed
because here's the thing: is they've been stumbling for the last couple of years after when Trump became president, Because when you get to a point where the world is literally crazier than South Park, like, what are you going to do?
Well, you're literally in the world that the Simpsons predicted.
Yeah, like where cities are burning down and we're, tearing each other apart over a pandemic and crap. Like, that's South Park every week, right? So, like, in this case, they're like, just like, what do we do? So I could see them kind of just losing their way. But then once they hit the streaming wars episodes, that's when they got their footing back. And since then, they've been hitting the ground running. And this year, I can't wait till the next episode, which we get a new one tonight, I think.
How's the Megan Netflix series doing? Culture, you have any?
It had some originally had some good numbers as far as overall viewership, but more because I think people were interested in the trash fire that it was. And it was just literally it was destroyed by every commenter, on both sides of the culture war, or whatever you want to call it. And
I have to say, I'm very disappointed with the reported book sales of that. I mean, seriously, everyone who bought that book, what's wrong with you? Why would you buy that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hasn't gone after the horror movie of the same name for misrepresentation.
Don't give her ideas.
To be honest with you, this is the thing why so many of those books were sold, Andre. The same reason they've sold so many National Enquirers and every other tabloid for the past 50 years. Because people just sit on this stuff. Because the royal family is like the original, like, reality TV show, right? Like, everybody just hangs on it for some reason. It's usually just like that soap opera part of it, I guess. Chad Rupnerine says, if Harry and Meghan don't settle down, the royal family might decide to do a paternity test. Well,
that would be fun because you have you have some rumors about Harry's parentage, because there's no doubt who the mother is. But when you look at William and King Charles, there's also no doubt who the father is.
They look very much like a Spencer.
Yep.
Yeah, you can put it that way.
Red hair. Where'd the red hair come from?
I will say though that there's some resemblance between Harry and Prince Philip, his grandfather.
Let's not go there.
I didn't think you were going.
All I'm saying is sometimes it skips a generation.
And Chad Rupnerine, thank you so much for that. We've also got, on this note, God King Dictator says, for Canada, the solution was to make Harry governor, as was a vacancy in the office, and would have given them 5 years to rethink the drama, in my honest opinion. Well, there you go. I don't really care. This is something we got into on Toxic Femme the other night. Or not the other night, but like a week and a half ago.
Okay, so Chato, how do you agree wholeheartedly that Harry should be made the governor of Canada?
Well, it couldn't get worse.
I'm sure he and Trudeau would have a lot to talk about.
Oh, for sure.
It's Trudeau.
Trudeau has gotten bored with running this country. Now he's just...
The two of them could talk about their parentage. That would be a fun discussion.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're still not entirely certain that there isn't a bit of Fidel in
let's move on.
In Trudeau.
Well, all I know is overall popularity for the couple has dropped substantially since December. It looks like they're both a net negative rating of at least -10. And Megan's a -17 right now.
Speaking of paternity, STR Red Wolf sends in 5 and says, Chato, to quote the 4 postmen, put on some pants.
Who are the 4 postmen?
I don't know. But they must not be. They must be telling people to put some pants on.
Put some pants on.
Well, they're probably the 4 horsemen for modern audiences.
That could be. Miguel Farah says, "Does Chato take his shirt off on those Zoom work meetings too, or is it just Midnight's Edge exclusive?"
Just Midnight. I only take my shirt off here.
No, he dresses like Dick Tracy in the other Zoom meetings.
That's right. I have an awful lot of female clients. I don't think they would appreciate
that, or they might.
Yeah.
They might.
Maybe.
Up in Canada, you're probably quite the catch.
Well, I mean, certainly I am known as one of the more handsome Canadians.
Yeah, there's
I
7
gotta
of them.
imagine
That's right.
Seven.
Our standards are very low.
that I haven't already moved to America to become actors. I hear you.
Ryan
Correct.
Reynolds.
Yeah,
Yep. All gone to the United States. All of
yeah.
them.
I see it. I see it.
The-
Pilgrim Media says great pizza from Philly to Mass. Well, I have never had Philly pizza, but I can imagine it might be good. You know, I love pizza everywhere, and I love how it's different everywhere. It's amazing. Dane Ball says, "Morning, gentlemen. Big fan of this channel. Question: will Amber Heard be the sole reason for Aquaman 2's box office failure, or were other factors as well?" So
Oh,
why don't
very
you
good.
ask that? And that will actually get us on our main topic for this morning. If we want to segue into that real quick, let's do that. Because
Let's do that.
I heard that the trailer screen, the movie screening was bad, not because of Amber. It was just
No.
bad. Like everything was bad.
if you've been listening to the channel for the last 6 months, there's a specific quote that I've said several times that I heard from 2 places. And Andre, would you remind me what that quote was?
I do not recall the exact quote, but I remember the gist of it. And the gist of it is basically everything is kind of awful here, including Amber Heard. But since everything else is so awful, she kind of fits right in with it. So it doesn't really matter. The movie is bad with or without her.
Okay, that was not even close, but close. Okay, you got the right sentiment. But yeah, so
gist,
this,
as I said, the gist.
if you remember, this was during the trial. Okay, so I had 2 separate people tell me the same exact thing. And I quote, Amber Heard isn't the problem with the movie. The problem is the movie fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
this
that's
was-
good. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was almost verbatim from both of them.
Yeah.
Because I asked, well, what's the deal with Amber Heard? Because that was my question. Because at this point, we kind of knew something was up, you know, and they're like, that's the problem. But they were toying with the idea of refilming or reshooting with somebody else then. But at this point, why throw more good money after bad when, you know, it's a dead end, basically. And joining us, we have a guest, surprisingly, Mr. Jonas J. Campbell. How are you doing?
Hello. I
How's that
I wasn't
Park Place?
interested in Aquaman 2, but I did hear something about snacks.
Yes, we have, as you pointed out here in your super chat here, where you said earlier something about midnight snacks, and as Troy Pacelli says, Mizzy Buddy is spot on. Midnight snacks actually could be a whole new Midnight Suns channel. Yes,
See, I
Culture's
told you
been
we
pushing
need
for
punch and
this.
pie.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that Culture will want a piece of the pie.
I don't eat a lot of sweets.
Is
Oh.
pie technically a snack?
Could
course.
be.
At 2 in the morning, maybe. I don't know,
To
Tom.
me,
You're the expert.
yes. It's both a snack and a meal. Okay, just depends on how much you eat.
Well, I mean, you're going from snack to dessert to meal, so you got those three.
It can be all 3 of those, and if it has real fruit in it, you can make the argument that it's healthy.
Yeah, you can make
Nobody
the
else is getting
argument,
back
but that
to you.
doesn't make it right. But yeah.
It's breakfast. That's right.
But let's
get on to
back
the,
from snacks to the story here.
So yeah, so the quote being, Amber Heard isn't the biggest problem with the movie. The biggest problem is that the movie sucks. So that's something I've been hearing for months now. And I guess we had another test screening recently. We don't know when specifically, but according to this source, hearing something similar that I did, Jeff Snyder. Does anybody know exactly where he comes from?
Yes, Jeff Snyder used
I
to
know
be
the name.
associated with Collider. He even had his
Okay.
own YouTube show at a time called The Snyder Cut, which is ironic because he was one of those people who was always of the mentality that there was no such thing as the Snyder Cut and it would never ever be released. And remember when Uwe Boll went and he challenged his critics to a boxing match, and then he actually beat the shit out of them. Jeff Snyder was one of those people who got his nut kicked in by or beaten in by Uwe Boll, and then he was pissy about it afterwards because he thought it was just a play game, whereas Uwe Boll actually went full contact, real deal. I believe that was Jeff Snyder.
All right. Wow, BSL Big Screen Leaks actually started this. Says there's a reason I've been avoiding any questions about Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. But since Viewer Anon put it out there, it brings me no joy to back him up and tell you that the test screening for this film have not been good. So actually it comes from Viewer Anon first. So really hoping Juan fixes this movie before December. And then Jeff backed him up saying, I hear it's terrible. And that's what Momoa is. And that's why Momoa is going to be Lobo going forward. But they can't say that yet because then it would be a lame duck. And DC is hoping to wring another billion out of the box office. First one was awful too. So not a huge surprise. I don't know if there's so much hoping to get $1 billion, but we'll get into that after the initial reaction to this. So like, again, for us here, this is not really brand new news. And I'm sure I earned my little clip. But
I do believe so, since you've been saying this for 6 months now.
I fucking knew it! Oh!
So, question, is this movie even going to get released in November? Let's talk about this just for a little bit. Andre, where do we want to start? Should we start with Jonas since he just joined us?
Yeah, Jonas. How much do you feel like seeing Aquaman 2 on a scale from 1 to 10? How excited are you? And are you looking forward to part 3, which they will want you to think is coming?
Ooh, not excited at all. My interest is only professional at this point. Yeah, I was trying to look at all this and try to see what the pinnacle point where you can say, oh, this is where it went wrong. And of course, there's the whole Snyder thing. There's the whole dark Aquaman thing, and the fact that it's not really a character that generally should be highlighting a movie that, biker Aquaman versus classic Aquaman. I was looking at the screenwriter, David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, which, what a mouthful of a name. I don't really follow the Juan verse, but he's a horror guy, and this I don't think that this is a technically in the horror genre or even close to it. People can obviously play against their usual standards, but I just don't see where the secret sauce is in this film that would make anyone excited for it.
Evidently, those reshoots didn't help. That's all I can say on that note.
And if I can say something slightly chauvinistic, if they could have Amber Heard on screen but silent, you would have most of the positive aspects of her portrayal.
Well, the beauty is from her, we learned a lot of spoilers from her on the stand, remember?
Oh,
we
yeah.
basically got the gist of her character in the film already. She spends most of it in a hospital bed. She spends most of it in a hospital bed. She was supposed to have a big action sequence that supposedly got cut before they even shot it. And then she's in a coma through most of the movie and has Aquaman's baby by the end.
Wow. So is that the introduction of Aqualad then? Garth, which that's a name that I do believe most of the American culture would associate with Wayne's World at this point.
No, Aqualad is not a blood relation to Aquaman.
Oh, okay. I missed that one. But his name is Garth, right?
Aqualad is Garth. Aquaman's son is not named Garth.
I'm letting my ignorance of DC show.
It's okay. Not many people know Aquaman.
I don't care about Aquaman. In fact, speaking of biker Aquaman, Jonas, my nickname for him was Sons of Aquaman Arcade for the longest time.
I've met Jason Momoa in the past. He is humongous, and he really has a great manner about him. And he's kind of one of those guys that puts you at ease with his demeanor. He never plays that guy on screen, though. He always plays these guys that are big and rough and evil and, is going to rip you apart kind of thing. So I don't know. It just feels kind of unnatural. There's some disconnect between his very, very likable actual persona in person, at least, and his screen persona. Like him in the Fast X trailer is just playing this, I don't know, evil mobster type. And it loses all of the aspects of what makes this guy a star, whether that's deserved or not.
I think Aquaman actually was Jason as the dude.
Well,
Pretty
it is
much.
now for the generation that watched him.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges in Aquaman 1.
You're not wrong. I mean,
That's
here's
what I
the
liked
thing
about it.
Yeah.
Well, and I said it last night, and this is nothing personal against him because I have no bias against him. I don't hate him, but he's just one of those actors that he can only act in certain roles, right? Like you put him in certain things, he's fine. You put him in other things, like here's my point. I liked him in Dune, but he was the least of that movie, right? Like he had a 18-year-old kid acting circles around him, or however old Timothée Chalamet was at the time they shot that, right? Like
27.
yeah, okay, whatever. He looks 10. But like the whole point is he's got this kid acting circles around him, and everybody else in that cast is 10 times better than him. He's kind of got the whole thing with like Bautista did when he first started, but he's getting better. But no, he was meant to play Lobo from the start. So I guess that's the other part of this too. But we'll get into that in just a moment.
He did play Conan.
He did play Conan, and that's probably a great role for him. But at the time, I just don't think he had the chops, and it was the wrong movie. Of course, that's Andre's domain for that one.
I think he would have been better as Conan now than he was then. I mean, he wasn't just like Aquaman 2 has problems that go beyond Amber Heard. The 2011 Conan had problems that went beyond Jason Momoa.
Just think about someone saying you have now reached the level of acting chops required to play Conan. Congrats.
Well,
Wow.
I mean, to a point, you're right, Paul. Like, it is kind of insulting, but at the same time, guys like Schwarzenegger and stuff like that have made careers out of roles like this.
Sure, and Schwarzenegger was terrible in his first movie. I mean, all I remember, what was it? And he was in
his first movie was
Hercules in New York or whatever.
In New
something
York.
like that. Yeah.
I think they even dubbed his voice.
They did originally, and then they redubbed it back after it became
Right. Okay. I mean,
yeah.
and he was absolutely dreadful in that.
Actually, no, Six. Schwarzenegger is not a ding dong. He's actually very, very intelligent.
No, I'm not saying that, but to be able to act.
No, Six said it here. She act. The common misnomer that bodybuilders are Nimrods. Believe it or not, Schwarzenegger is very smart.
Well, he was the governor of California.
Yeah, and you don't get to do that with nothing. And also remember, like Schwarzenegger, he only played into the stereotype, but he was already a self-made man long before he came into the movies. Never underestimate Arnold.
That's one of my favorite facts about him. He was a tenant, landlord for a large apartment complex before he ever started, so that he could say no to roles that were just going to be meh.
And the funny thing is for years, I mean, if you listen to him talk outside of movies and stuff, a lot of the accent and stuff he just puts on for the movies. Like he's lost a lot of that over the years.
Yeah.
Well, he worked with a dialect coach to get rid of it. So
yeah. But
he was great in Kindergarten Cop. I mean, those are fun movies.
Well, and that's because there's a great example of Ivan Reitman knowing how to play to his strengths.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
If you get Jason Momoa in the right role and a director who knows how, that's where I said Bautista worked out with James Gunn, right? He nursed him along through those two movies to where by the time we've gotten to the Christmas special, he's carrying the Christmas special. So he's gotten that much better as an actor, and I give James Gunn all the credit mostly.
Well, and Momoa was he was one of the Vancouver guys. He was Stargate Atlantis for, I want to say 6 seasons, however long that show went on. He'd been acting for a while. He's one of the rare superheroes these days between Marvel and DC that has an inherent female audience because he's eye candy. If I ever bring up Jason Momoa in a group of women, they have comments.
After the squeals?
I don't know why they would want to get away from this. I guess if he's going to be Lobo, they're going to stay in this direction. But having actual marketable male stars that appeal to women, Timothée Chalamet is not bringing in that audience.
No, but culture, you've
That's
been a little. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah,
Andre.
I just want to say that real quick. Yeah, that's actually why he was cast as Conan. They were looking at 2 or 3 candidates, and Conan, he wasn't the studio chief's preferred choice. And then the candidates walked into the Millennium offices, and when the other candidates, including the preferred candidate from the studio chief, walked in, the secretary at the entrance, no reaction at all. Then Momoa came in, and all the ladies in the office swooned. And then they were like, fine, that's our guy.
Yeah. But Culture, you've been kind of quiet. I want to get your take on.
People are walking out on test screenings, reportedly.
Ooh.
That's
ouch.
not good. You know, and you're not getting this from one of the people that you would normally expect. You're getting it from a whole bunch of them talking about this and all adding, you know, it's almost like a dog pile as to, you know, that they've been kind of holding it closer to their chest than not.
This,
you know,
this
go ahead.
BSL Big Screen Leaks guy, I went through the thread. He won't specify what it is, but he says there's one point in the movie that the audience really turned against it. So that must be what you're referring to, Culture, where people started walking out.
Yeah, I mean, and that doesn't happen in test screenings. I mean,
who wrote and directed it?
Say again?
Who wrote and directed it?
Well, I mean, isn't this James Wan's thing?
It's the
his
same team as
direction.
the first Aquaman.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's directing it, but I don't know if he wrote the whole thing. I think he had a co-writer, right? Script.
No, James Wan didn't write either of them. It's written by the same guy who wrote the first Aquaman.
Okay, so it's just one guy.
Oh, so he just anyway. Regardless, it's just
It's
you
the guy
know.
who did Conjuring, She's Here, Red Riding Hood, those types of things. Wrath of Titans,
Horror stuff.
Horror stuff with one action in there, here and there.
Okay.
Wrath of Titans was horrible.
Yeah, it was. So, you know, when I look at this and I'm like, all right, and everything that came out yesterday, and it didn't come out slowly, it came out all in one big, like, bleh, you know, right in the middle of the day yesterday. And I just, it to me, it just doesn't, I wasn't surprised, you know, and I'm still not surprised, you know, that this is not going down well with people. And I don't think, in, you know, the super chat that kind of inspired this conversation. I don't think it's Amber Heard's fault. I mean, I'm sure she's terrible. I mean, she's not a particularly good actress, never has been. But
if she's in a coma through most of the movie, I guess you can't really blame her.
You can't really ruin a film if you're in a coma, right? You could be replaced by a dummy. But anyway, regardless, it's just, if the film's bad, it's bad. They're going to put more money into this. And I think this is like the point that I think Tom was getting at yesterday. Yeah, you're not going to put more money into this film. You've already dumped tons of money into it. You dumped tons of money into it with reshoots. It's taken negative PR hit after negative PR hit. And, you know, half of those, of course, you can attribute to Amber Heard. But, you know, and to answer Andre's question, you know, directed at Jonas and possibly, you know, everybody else, I'm not looking forward to this film. This is one I probably will skip, you know, and I'll be better for it. You know,
my question is what is the moment that is causing people to run out of the theater? I mean, it has to be pretty polarizing to get Americans to get up out of their seat and leave what is going on screen. They apparently didn't leave for the socialism comments in Ant-Man.
I wish I knew.
Name any number
I
of
can
moments.
make a guess.
Yeah.
That's the moment when Amber Heard wakes up from coma.
I was gonna make that joke too, but like, yeah, I really kind of wish I knew now. I hadn't heard of anything specifically, but we do know that.
Could it be a moment of incredible emasculation?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, again, I have no.
It's a scene of an underwater birth, and we just don't want to see that.
Oh,
that could be. I don't know. I mean, maybe what was saving grace of this movie before was a lot of the cameos that have now been cut out. That could be too. I mean, but I'm not sure that's not what's going to make people walk out. But
the red panda from Turning Red shows up.
There you go. Or Jane Fonda is in this.
Right? Oh God.
Yeah.
Don't. We're all screwed.
Or Ezra Miller makes a cameo.
But worse than that, y'all. Barbara Streisand.
Oh boy,
like, that would be the ultimate. No, script doctor. Like you've been chiming in here and there, but what's your overall take on this, and have you heard anything yourself personally?
No, not anything in months regarding this film, and usually you take that as a good sign. Where if there's nothing coming out, then it's probably nothing bad. But no, if they did this test screen recently and people are leaving, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I mean, I would say this: Amber Heard probably has the least to do with this movie being bad.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw it out there like that. Like that, the history, the writing history of this guy involved, he has more. I mean, no one can write perfect all the time, but he has a lot more bad movies than good. And the only reason he keeps getting work, I think, is because he's in a partnership with James Wan, because James Wan's usually one producing or directing some of the stuff that he's working. So it's a friendship relationship as opposed to a business one. But yeah, I'm only I have morbid curiosity on this film, not enough to see it in theaters. I'll wait if I can get lucky enough to get a screener, or maybe I'll just wait for digital and put it in the background when I'm doing laundry or something. But yeah, I have no real inclination to see this film. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be the final nail of the old DC Films regime.
Well, this is set to come out after The Flash now, isn't it?
December.
Which it originally
It's the last
was
of the
slated.
slate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Christmas Day, December 25, I believe.
Yep.
Oh wow, what's that going up against?
This
Santa.
year, yeah, Santa. I don't know if is there anything big else coming out that I think everything got out of its way initially, and then I mean, there's a few movies coming out around it, but not like directly in competition, unless somebody has to remind me.
What a disaster for the entire movie industry here that Disney is spacing out and no one cares where their movies land. Whereas there was a conversation that Last Jedi is going to be here, and then James Cameron moved his movie back off of that spot. Obviously, it took a while for Avatar 2 to come out, but he ceded his spot after Star Wars moved to December of that year. And now no one cares what's going up against any of these movies, because I don't think the entire culture is interested in what's going on at any of these companies.
So I've got the films of December. On the 15th is Wonka. On the 20th is an untitled Ghostbusters sequel.
Okay.
On the 20th, The Color Purple. What? Okay.
Yeah, they remade it.
Okay.
Ooh.
And it's The Color Mauve now. And
Yep.
the 22nd is Illuminations Migration. And on the 25th is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And that's it for 2023.
Oof. Yeah.
What's weird is they're actually going to be competing with a Netflix film that I don't think is going to get a theatrical release. But I think a lot of people are going to be more interested in staying home and watching Rebel Moon.
Oh yeah,
The Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah. I think you're going to have a lot of Snyder fans.
I'm going with Ghostbusters.
But they could be skipping. Honestly, they could skip seeing Aquaman in favor of watching Rebel Moon.
Go see
Well, they can
Ghostbusters
watch
again.
it at any time. They could actually watch the movie before they go to see Aquaman if they wanted
This
to.
is true. I like I said, I mean, I was trying to make it funny, but it's the real joke here is that nobody cares when any of these films land anymore. I think that's the thing. Your Wonka might do. Wonka and Ghostbusters might do better than this film.
I have a weird feeling about Wonka. Not to go off topic for a minute, but Timothée Chalamet, we did bring him up already.
Oh, that's
He's
it.
got this fucking following.
Which
But
makes
I
no
have this
sense.
feeling that Wonka is going to do better than we think it is because of that fucking following. I could be wrong.
Cute. And he's good in Dune. He's a good actor.
Like, I mean, do they even have Teen Bop magazine and crap anymore? If they did, he'd be on the cover of it.
Absolutely. He is the prototypical teen male hero for
pushing
teeny
30.
boppers.
Well, because every time I turn around, he's trending and they're talking about him somewhere and for some stupid. All he's got to do is sneeze.
Yeah. That's how he's being handled.
Yeah, I don't know if he's no Jared Leto yet, though. You're right. He
Oh.
doesn't have his own island in the cult yet. Yeah.
Thank God
he
for
needs
that.
He needs to be a rock star. Then he can pull that off.
I think
Okay, so let's.
on that
Go
note,
ahead.
I think Tom Holland is probably eating his lunch.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the next part of this here, because the worst kept secret of this whole thing seems to be that Momoa is supposed to be playing Lobo. This is something that just keeps coming up, and this is something I heard way back when, and I kind of shrugged it off. I'm like, why would they have him play two parts?
Gunn said no.
He didn't specifically say no. All he said is that he would not have actors playing two different parts, from my recollection.
And then the quiet part is at the same time. Because I've also been like hearing this so many times and from so many places that I can't believe that it's a coincidence. No one knows exactly what James Gunn has planned apart from James Gunn, but this thing with him being Lobo, I mean, it could all be bunk. We don't know the ultimate source of the rumor, but we heard it from so many places now, independently of each other, that I got to think there's something to it. And also, who hasn't thought the moment when he was cast as Aquaman, why the hell did they not cast him as Lobo instead? Because you're right about Jason Momoa's talent. He is someone, he's gotten better, but it's not like he can play any role. He can basically play the kind of roles that plays to his strengths and to his personality. If there is such a role, it's Lobo.
Well, not only that, you had his video that he put out there that was so obvious yet cryptic at the same time. You know what I mean? Like with his whole, I love James Gunn, I love Zaslav, you guys, Peter Safran, you know, all that shit he was doing. It's like, and he even said in the one interview, he's like, there's one comic book character I have every comic of. If you know everything about me, anything about me, you'll know what it is. I think it's Lobo, from what I researched, but
it's Mr. Pop-Up.
It's actually Mr. Pop-Up. Yes, he's playing Mr. Pop-Up in a new movie. So, but no. So yeah, do you guys want to comment any more on the Lobo thing? I know we kind of covered this before, but for anybody else who may not have been here when we did.
You know, it's been a really long history. I think Jason Momoa was cast as Aquaman maybe years before the Guardians of the Galaxy casting took place, and as I understand, he was turned down for Drax, or he met James Gunn for Drax, and it didn't work out.
Correct. He even went to London to audition, and he was actually really pissy about it. He basically went and he complained in some talk show or something, saying like he didn't know who got the role, but he really went there, and he went to London just for the audition, and he, in his own opinion, delivered one hell of a performance, and Gunn basically decided he wasn't right. And after seeing the movie, we know exactly why. The kind of portrayal that we got in Guardians of the Galaxy, it was pitch perfect for Dave Bautista, but if Jason Momoa were to portray that character, it hadn't worked. James Gunn had his own idea for how the character should be, and Dave Bautista had just the right qualities to embody that. Now, could Jason Momoa have been closer to some of the Drax iterations of the comics? Perhaps, but he wasn't what Gunn was looking for. So that's the story with that.
Yeah, and Six found the clip I was talking about here in the background. Bring it up here real quick because I don't think it's very long anyway. Boom.
Peter Safran. I saw James post Lobo. Are those two?
Did he really?
He posted a photo of Lobo.
Show me.
He posted a photo of Lobo on Mastodon to say, I'm on this app too, with a tease of Lobo. Is your statement and his post connected at all? Fair enough.
Well, everyone knows I'm a comic book fan, and so the comic that I collect the most, and I have every comic there is, you can do your research and find out what it is.
It's Nancy. Nancy and Sluggo. He wants to play Sluggo.
Actually, he has a shit ton of Archie comics. Yeah, no.
I would love to see Jason Momoa playing Tintin.
Just don't let Spielberg at any future version of Tintin.
Didn't Peter Jackson direct that one? Or
Yeah,
it
he was.
Spielberg?
He was involved
The
with
two
it.
of them
He was an
together.
advisor.
Yeah, I know they were supposed
Yeah.
to bounce back and forth. Each one was the plan they were going to do.
It was a dreadful piece of crap. I would never, except for the opening. The opening sequence in Montmartre was wonderful, but then after that, they kind of Spielberg turned it into Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it wasn't Tintin. I like the French cartoon miniseries of that show. That's a fantastic adaptation.
But
Yeah.
no, what's his name? Lost the plot.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how bad Aquaman is. But the only other point we could probably bring up here is it going to get delayed again? Or do you think it's going to stick to its date? Do you think it's
Well,
gonna
the
stick to
better
date?
question is, are they going to put more money into it and reshoot whole chunks of it now that they are finding out that it's going to be a piece of shit?
I mean, they already have, and I don't think it's going to do any. What more can they do at this point, really?
I think
Only
they've
got
been
8 months
editing stuff
to do a lot.
together. I don't think they've been reshooting. I think, you know.
Oh no, they were reshooting in between here. This is what I'm saying is I believe that the only reason you would have this test screening is because you're implementing whatever you reshot, because they did reshots. What was it, last summer?
They did reshoots up until
Late
I think
summer?
September of last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say late summer it was.
You know what I think they're going to do with the movie at this point? Since they know this is a creative dead end, there's no point in sinking any more money into it.
Well, there's that.
I think they are going to improve it by way of making cuts, cutting away the parts that can be cut without completely interrupting the flow. Then they're going to cut back on marketing. And if there is any contractual way of limiting the release in any shape or form, they're going to do that too. This is one where I think that they see that there ain't no way we're getting the money on this thing. So let's just try to reduce the losses, get people excited for next product.
That's it.
And
I
there's
mean, this
one
is
other.
the thing that Tom Rothman did when he came into Sony, and he saw the screening of Ghostbusters 2016. He knew right away there ain't no fixing this. There ain't no going back doing reshoots to make this a better movie. The reshoot of that one scene had already happened, so he had a finished movie on his hands. So what he decided was, yeah, okay, this is going to blow up right in our faces. I'm going to try to save where I can, and I'm going to cut 30 million from the promotional budget here and now. And that's what he did.
And did you cut like
that's
another half hour
I-
of the movie too? Sorry, you were saying, Andre. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just like saying, so basically, yeah, he saved what he could on that by cutting from the promotional budget. I would not be too surprised if they're going to do that thing here. They're going to do the bare minimum that they can get away with, given the contracts they will have with third-party licensees and everything like that. But beyond what they minimum have to do, they're not going to put another cent into it, because they know whatever they put into it, they ain't getting back again.
No,
I
and that's the other
wonder.
thing. Yeah, go ahead, Jonas.
Sorry, I wonder. I know that the specific window for the tax write-down has now passed for this movie, but they have
Yeah, so they
mentioned-
I don't
can't
know if
write
they
off the whole
can.
thing.
I don't know if they
Right.
could in the first place, because that's what I was going to say is the reasons that we were kind of hearing that they couldn't get out of Flash and stuff like that to begin with was a lot of the back end and promotional deals and stuff they had. So I'm sure it's a same exact situation here. But that's the thing is they put these movies out and they flop. They don't have to pay anybody a dime. You know, like they don't have to worry about paying Jason Momoa or anybody a back end deal if it flops. So that's where I
Unless they
think
have first box office dollar gross, like Tom
Exactly,
Cruise tends
yeah.
to have and stuff.
Oh,
They
sorry,
have,
Jason Momoa's no Tom Cruise. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Jonas.
No, the only thing I was going to say is the CFO of Warner issued some kind of statement saying that restructuring costs could go through the end of next year. I think it was one of those open-ended statements, and it probably was talking about operating expenses more than movie expenses. I honestly wonder if this film might be. I don't know what the back-end deals for streaming are that make it that incentivize them to remove products from streaming entirely. I know that, for instance, Santa Inc. I know that has been nuked to the point where I'm not sure you can find it even on the paid services anymore. I wonder if Aquaman is so bad and so damaging, and it costs them money to have it on the platform in a way that they would even remove it from HBO Max or wherever it ends up or would end up. They should just Velma the whole thing, make it as offensive as possible, and just see what they can do with that.
Well,
Might
I
as
mean,
well,
this is the one that I think they were figuring they might actually had a chance on making some money on, but that's probably going out the window with the kind of test screenings they're getting out of it.
I mean,
So I
Aquaman
think they're
has
losing
those.
faith in it, is my point. But yeah.
Yeah, Aquaman has those environmental themes baked into it in a natural way. I mean, they could just go for broke and see who's left from Ant-Man and have them do a couple punch-ups. Have the ADR guys. You don't even have to have Jason Momoa and Amber Heard say the lines. Just go for it. Full woke. They'll
All
be
you gotta
talking
do is
about
have
this
them say
movie for years.
badass every 2 minutes and it's fine, you know.
My man.
My man, badass. Shit, just have me come in and do it. Like, no, like I think at this point it's a dead duck. I really do. We'll have to wait and see how it goes, though. But yeah, let's see what the chat's talking about here. Let's get back into the chat because Blue Beetle is another DC project, and I seen Paulie and some other guys talk about it in the chat here. Jason Milton brings it up with a $5 super chat. Says, Andre, Tom, is Blue Beetle even coming out? If so, does it even matter if it's Elseworld standalone? DC projects are so confusing. If we should care, yeah. As far as I know, Blue Beetle's still coming out. I heard they were actually
it is coming out.
They were actually impressed enough with what they had gotten out of it that it was originally meant for HBO Max and is supposed to still be coming to theaters now. So unlike Batwoman or Batgirl or whatever the hell it was called, they weren't embarrassed by this one. So it sounds like it's still coming out. So yeah, unless anybody's heard anything different.
It is indeed coming out. James Gunn himself has confirmed that Blue Beetle is coming out as planned, as scheduled. He did not say whether we will see Blue Beetle again beyond that movie because it's not one of his. I would not put money on it, but it's definitely coming out.
Yeah, he mentioned that in his one thing, and he said because he kind of said it was like it's in its own little world anyway. So, which is something we had kind of heard and said anyway. So,
yeah, it's connected to Shazam, so it's part of like the
Loosely,
little
yeah.
Shazam thing that's going.
August 18th.
So the end of the
Thank you,
summer.
Paul.
Yeah.
What?
So all of the movies which are already in the can are coming out, but what comes out next, or will they have any future beyond it? That is difficult to say. However, James Gunn's recent tweets lead me to think that my initial postulation was correct. Everything will be stricken from canon, apart from James Gunn's own stuff, meaning the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker stuff. That stays, everything else goes.
We'll see.
Because
I'm looking forward to Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. That's what I'm waiting for.
Because on Twitter he confirmed that Peacemaker season 2 is definitely still happening. It's just after Waller. They don't have time for it yet, but it's coming. If that is true, that means that that's still part of his canon.
Well, I would say that 2024 is going to be the year of DC on television, not so much DC on film.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's plenty of time to get that out and done before Superman.
1 year for 3 shows to come out sparse. That's basically 4 months for one series. You've got you got plenty of time to do that and hold on to your DC brand fandom until the following summer where you release the Superman film.
And Blue Beetle is a Safran production, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Gunn and Safran and all their existing stuff is pretty safe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it has a future, but at least we'll see the first one anyway.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get that stuff. But again, remember, this is now their sandbox where the Blue Beetle and Shazam before that was them playing in someone else's sandbox. Now they can do whatever the heck they want. They can wipe the slates clean and start fresh if they so choose. And the stuff that I'm reading off of James Gunn's Twitter and some of the little rumors that are swirling around, it seems like that's going to be the direction that after 2024 will be the final year of anything that was in development under the old regime. That where they already started filming or they already did enough legwork where they can't cut now, so they have to see it to completion.
Now, speaking of James Gunn's tweets, did you all notice that he just tweeted yesterday or the day before that he was hired to do the Superman Legacy script 6 months ago? Which would put him...
He said something about that, yeah.
Yeah,
he did say something about that. But what I don't see is why everyone is running away with it, because all that means is that the previous administration, they hired him to do a Superman thing 6 months ago, and then they were begging and pleading with him to take over all of DC, and only later did he eventually give in to that.
Yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
The timeline on the Cavil firing, and because if he's hired in October, he was hired in August, the announcement of Cavil in October along with Shazam, and then I think also in October the announcement that he will not be coming back as Superman, or maybe that was November. All of that, and David Zaslav is there to fall on the sword one more time and say, no, it was Zaslav's fault that Cavil's not coming back. I don't fault them for wanting to restart the universe. It's a good idea, but I wonder if there's some people taking the blame for things that were not necessarily theirs, just for the sake of moving along.
I don't think they should be taking blame at all for it. And I don't know if this is where you're going with the script, because again, we got to remind people this whole thing had to do with cameos and shit. They offered him a cameo in Shazam that he turned down. It's not like they never said they wouldn't work with him. They just, whatever was going on, they just didn't have a Superman project in line for him and that he was agreeing to work on or whatever. And when he came back to this deal, it sounds more like it was Danny Garcia and shit that filled his head full of these dreams more than anybody.
That's part of what I was going at. Because
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Henry Cavill was never fired. You can't be fired from a job you were never offered.
Yeah.
And that's just the facts of the matter. Like he was hired to do a cameo only. And Warner Brothers only liked and supported anything that would benefit the film Black Adam in theaters. They never told him directly that he is coming back as Superman. Most likely his agent and representation did. And that's why he made that Instagram announcement. And if James Gunn was hired or he pitched a Superman in August or late July, and Zaslav said, oh, go ahead and write it, that means the decision was made long before they even got Henry Cavill to come in and shoot his cameo. So
which happened in September,
which happened in September. So it means the decision was made before he was even aware of it. And the other part too, and this is something that everyone listening has to be very mindful of when it comes to contract and casting. Rarely are actors actually fired before or after they have done a job. You can literally count on one hand the amount of actors of big properties, or at least sizable properties, that were fired in the midst of filming, because that's when terminations happen. Usually in the midst of stuff is a real termination. If the show is wrapped and it's debuted and the person's not coming back, they weren't fired. They just completed their contract. If there was rumor that they were going to be hired for a role and they didn't get it, they weren't fired from that role because they were never got in the first place. So you really have to be careful how you use that firing term, because this is not a business that's like a 9-to-5 job. It's
Right.
Contract work by contract. You either negotiate a contract, it's signed and you're good, or you don't. And that's it. And only unless you break that, like the actor in The Expanse, he was fired mid-series, and then they had to write and use special effects to kill his character off at the end of the 5th season. That is an actual termination. Henry Cavill's not part of that.
I appreciate the clarity. Yes.
Well, I mean, you don't want to perpetuate misinformation that people will take seriously and then start making accusations.
Right.
And that's how you get lies.
What I was going to say is, I believe
intent from you or anyone else saying it. It's just that's how it works.
And I believe James Gunn when he said it, he flat out had nothing to do with Henry one way or the other. I don't think he did. I don't think he was privy to any of that shit on either side of it. But when the choice was made to bring him on after the opening weekend of Black Adam, and they knew what was going on then, it was pretty clear. And I think they courteously went to Henry Cavill and said, look, it sounds like you're being jerked around by certain people. This is not going anywhere, is probably what happened. Because he was the one who come out and publicly said something. Nobody else did. Script is right. He's right. Like, you never get fired in Hollywood. You just don't come back, right? That was the whole thing with Amber Heard. Was at first it was just going to be, yeah, she'll just never be back. It was only when things were looking really dire and shitty with the case were they actually scrambling and thinking about replacing her in the film. And that would be almost unheard of, because that generally does not happen very often outside of the Kevin Spacey incident, or if somebody dies.
Christopher Plummer coming in, yeah.
Yeah. You know, where that's the only few times that those kind of things happen. So like that, I mean, I was never 100% sure on what was going on myself. I was just telling you guys what I was hearing. And once James Gunn came into the picture, there's no sense in changing or doing anything, right? Like, that's where we're at with this, is like, you're right, Andre, just dump the movie in theaters. Who gives a shit if it's bad or not? Because the better at, if it's worse, it's just going to make whatever comes after it better. So, you know, I mean, I know they don't want to put out a bad product at the same time, but it's, at this point, you know, really, I don't even understand why they announced this shit before Aquaman 2 came out. They could have kept the lid on this for another year. I don't understand. It's just something about it just doesn't feel, it just feels weird. And that's where I buy some of this stuff about setting the company up for sale. And I know we're kind of going, that's going off in a tangent, but it's like, you know, you look at this whole thing as a whole, it's like, is he resetting or isn't he resetting? Because you and I even sit here and butt heads about that shit all the time. You know, it's like, I don't know either. None of us either really know. Yeah, but your mic is still messed up, Andre. We don't know what, you might have to reset or something.
It is easier to say fired than it is to say not renewed on their contract. I think there's some shorthand there that, especially when we talk about these things,
assuming a renewal was a
constantly.
possibility. You don't know that. That's the other part, right?
Well, right. And I'm not disagreeing with you at this point. I'm just saying that sometimes when you talk about the same subject over and over again with people who understand what you mean, it's easy to forget that you have an audience, and it's easy to use the shorthand terms for things like
the glowing example of this, Jonas, would probably be Gina Carano, right? Because she was kind of publicly
she was publicly
separated,
I would say, yeah,
humiliated, whatever you want to call it, because like, yeah, she was never technically fired. They just didn't renew her contract.
Yeah, she signed a 2-year contract. That was it.
There was conversations had.
Yep. But there's nothing offered for a renewal. There's nothing offered for another thing that was presented to her. And that's the other part too, right? Like, you can't say Henry was going to get renewed. His contract was completed after Justice League. Yeah. That was it. That's what he signed for. And he never had anything presented or done again other than that cameo, which was just a cameo contract. And he had a couple of those for The Flash and supposedly for Aquaman. But again, those are very different from, you're going to be playing this character in feature films for X amount of years, which he was never presented to him. And I think he was eager for that. And I think a lot of us were eager for him to get that. But I mean, that's the reality of it. It's just that, because firing has a very specific imagery to it. It's, you're already working and now you're not. Whereas in Hollywood, it's, you're not working to begin with, so you're still fired. No, that's not how it works.
Right.
No.
And I'm not saying anybody should be blaming anybody necessarily, but if you're going to have any ire in this situation, I think the ire should be directed more towards like Dani Garcia, because she is really what was going on here is Henry Cavill had just fired her not too long before all this. And what I see here is her trying to get back in his good graces. And I think she thought if she could get him back in the role of Superman, that she would take him back. Because let's be real, outside of The Rock, he is her biggest client probably. And I don't know if she even knows she has any other clients.
She has a number. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Her biggest, but he was definitely the rising star.
Well, who else would she have besides The Rock that would be any bigger than Henry Cavill? I guess that would be my question then.
I don't know. She represents a handful of other people. I just can't think of them for the moment because I have not seen any of her agency listings. And
I'm not expecting you to like just produce it, but like that's my point. Is like that's the only other times I've ever heard her name come up is between Cavil and The Rock. So in this instance, I would chalk it up to more of something like they were trying very hard when that wasn't the way the direction things were going. I mean, I just know that the only reason it was discussed is because at that time, before James Gunn had come into the picture, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi were looking at having to try and salvage what they had at that point, I think is what the mentality they were going forward with. And Zaslav was open to the idea of Cavil coming back. But at the same time, he also wanted James Gunn to take this over. This was something I'd been saying for months before that, is they were whining and dining him, trying to get him to take on the DC universe. And some people didn't even really make sense to it. It didn't even really make sense to me. Right. So anyway,
Now,
Dearest, go ahead, Jonas. You had
if I can stay in this conflict area for just one more moment.
Absolutely.
I do think it is there is some fairness to the idea that he was fired when you talk about that Warner Brothers were the ones that told him he could go ahead and announce it, or that was the public story that Warner Brothers authorized him to say he was going to continue to do more Superman movies. And later it coming out that The Rock fully expected there to be more Superman, and he wanted a showdown between Black Adam and Superman. There was a change of direction that they were all anticipating going in that way. So I will say that in defense of the idea that he was fired. Yes, he did not have a contract renewal, but there were public statements made to the idea that this was going to continue on.
Well, that's what people inferred, but that's not what happened. What most likely happened is Henry Cavill said, "Hey, can I let them know that I'm back as Superman in Black Adam?" And they said, "Sure, go ahead."
Okay.
And then he ran with it for more. He took more from it than was there. I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Garcia got the same okay and then beefed it up for Henry to support, because that's usually what goes on. If Henry Cavill walked in there and says, "Hey, can I tell them I'm coming back as Superman? I'm going to be in a bunch of Superman movies," Warner Brothers would be like, whoa. We don't know if you're coming back for a bunch of Superman movies, but you can go ahead and say you're back in Black Adam. Because that's how studios do things. They never jump the gun unless they got everything like dotted and signed and crossed the T's, because they know how if that doesn't pan out, they look like they have a lot more egg on their faces. Now, the funny thing here is that when Henry did that, and when Danny Garcia did a couple of her own little videos trying to imply that Henry's back as Superman, and then Warner Brothers said quite the contrary, they were the ones with egg on their faces, and the fans were very outraged because they were taking the word of those people, including The Rock, that this was going to be a thing, because they heavily implied that was going to be a thing. But Warner Brothers never publicly confirmed. They just supported anything that was directly related to Black Adam to fulfill their fiduciary duties to make sure that they are doing everything to allow that Black Adam had a great chance of success. And it didn't work out to their liking.
Well, we even heard that The Rock had kind of tried to manipulate things himself.
Yeah, there were stories in the trades about The Rock being disappointed
he's probably
with how it
just
turned
as
out.
he's probably just as guilty in this situation
I would
too.
not
But
be surprised if The Rock said, "Hey, we at $7. If we get our slice of DCU like we're trying to, Henry, guess what? You're going to be Superman." And if that's what under the auspices that he was operating under, you could totally believe that. But again, that is not the same as Warner Brothers or anyone, or Pam and Abdi and them, DeLuca coming down and saying, "Hey, Henry, guess what? We've got it confirmed. You're going to be Superman. Paperwork is in the mail. Have your lawyers and Danny look it over. Can't wait to work with you." That never happened. But if that did, and then they said that we're not going that direction, that would be closer to a termination. But that's not the reality of it.
And then on the other side of that, you got his now girlfriend / agent who's working him into Warhammer, which is obviously like, clearly from an outside perspective looks like, okay, baby, it's okay. Don't worry. I know she promised you this, but I'm going to get you this instead, sweetie. Don't worry. Like, that's what it really looks like.
Yeah. And then if Black Adam was a hit, like if it made, say, like $800 million or something, I would not be surprised if Warner Brothers brought in those people and said, "Okay, we got receipts proving that there's popularity behind this. Let's open up contracts, negotiations and contracts."
Yeah,
well said.
But I do know you need to leave here, Jonas. But real quick, I want to grab this super chat that's been on screen. Dearest sends in $5 and says, "Studio messed up. Momoa Aquaman should be Drogo crossed with Mao. Instead, they made him a bro, stereotyping Momoa." I agree, Dearest. I brought this up last night when we were discussing this. I said if they were going to change Aquaman the way they did, they should have made him more regal and stuff like that. I agree totally. But Jonas, that Park Place, where else can people find you, or anything else you want to plug on your way out the door?
Sure. New episode of Everything Woke About Star Trek Picard Part 2 came out today, and that is a show that looks like it's going well, but it thoroughly needs to be examined before we realize how good we have it now. Also want to say much respect, Script Doctor. I appreciate the history lesson here.
Oh no, likewise. I love your reporting, and I enjoyed your part 1 of Picard. Everything woke up with cards, so I'm looking forward to part 2 later today.
Awesome, and I'll have to see when part 3 comes out. Thank you very much, everyone, for having me on, and Culture, Chato, Script, Tom, and Andre. Andre, wherever you are. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks, guys.
Get lost.
Take off,
Thank you,
Ozer.
Jonas. Take off, Ozer, eh? Thank you so much, Jonas, for hopping in here. Let's get some more of these super chats. HyperGuyver2 says, something I don't understand. If Marvel lost the rights to Conan, how are they able to issue a new omnibus collection of Savage Sword of Conan? Well, I should have saved this one for when Andre got back, but the short version that I know of is that they had a contract up through a certain point, and once that contract is done, then they will be done, and then it's moving over to the new label that they're under now, is my understanding of it. But Andre wants to expand on that when he gets back. He can be more than he can feel. If he feels free to, he can do that. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Hopefully he's having not having too many issues. Arcaden Blog says, I've given it a lot of thought. Sorry. And I'm honestly getting sick of all the culture war drama. Yeah. Why are you starting so much drama, Culture? Yeah.
Lots of people are envious of his hair. I mean,
he says, I'm considering moving on from channels like Midnight's Edge for my mental health sake. And I understand where you're coming from. And we try not to cover this stuff as much as we only have to. And I hear you, because I get the same way just covering it, man. So I don't blame you. Sometimes you got to unplug, take a break, get away from it all.
Do a respite. Yeah.
Yep. There's bright sides. There's light points. And I don't want to like discourage you from watching us or anything like that, because that would go against, my better judgment. But, from a personal perspective, man, no, I totally understand. But if anything, just try and peep us when we're talking about things we like too. There's plenty of that. There's 4K for you. There's times when I go on other channels where we talk about certain things, or when we review certain things here.
There's A-rated B movies and B-rated A movies that we do every once in a while.
Yeah, we've got to get back to that again. I was just going to ask you about that last week, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and there's other things we do try to do. And the wrap up every week seems to be fun. Sometimes we dive into some of these kind of topics, but sometimes we dive into other kind of things that are fun to talk about too. That's kind of the point of that. So I hear you. Maybe you just need to be more selective, but if you need to unplug, totally understand and respect that. Arcade and Blog. So hear you there. Mike and Ayers says Brock left a piece of the symbiote in the MCU, so MCU Venom will be a byproduct of the Sonyverse. That's why Brock was there. Yeah, there was a lot of negotiation behind the scenes on how that worked out. Yes, it's open for that possibility. Hey, Andre, how you sounding now?
Probably the same.
Yeah, check your mic setting. Which mic are you on?
Yeah, no, I kind of like, can we work with this? Because it's going to be like this.
It's going to have to work, I guess. Yeah,
it's going to have to.
All right. And then Zephyr has been a member for 19 months. Thank you so much. Did you see the question about Conan, Andre?
I did not. You have to repeat it for me. What was that question?
The question was, since Marvel lost the rights, how are they able to still release the Conan? Here you go. Hypergiver says, something I don't understand. If Marvel lost the rights to Conan, how are they able to issue a new omnibus, a collection of Savage Sword of Conan? Thank you.
That's simple. This new collection that you are referring to, it would have been released from Marvel. Was released before New Year, because their license was good up until the 31st of December. However, the next omnibus collection coming out, it's actually not from Marvel. It's from Titan, the new licensee. They're just carrying on with the omnibus collections, so that you that started with Marvel can complete your collection from Titan. So maybe there was some kind of licensing deal, something. I do not know the details with that, but they are coming out from Titan. But But the people behind Conan, they do understand how omnibus collectors don't want to start completely over, so they were able to work something out to where the omnibus collections will continue from Titan. And if
See, I
you
was
see a
wrong.
Marvel logo there somewhere, it's marquee only.
I was wrong. I thought they had the rights to finish up and then they were moving over there, but
Nope.
there you go.
Nope.
I'm glad you
It's a
were
special
able to.
deal just to make omnibus collectors happy.
There you go. And then Dalton, on the note of Conan, Dalton B had his son about an hour ago. Congratulations, and picked a great name, Conan. Congratulations, Dalton.
That is a good, strong name right there.
Yeah.
And on the topic of congratulations,
Yes,
we have
We do.
someone else that we need to congratulate as well. I just have to make
Simon is having
make
a
it
birthday tomorrow, and
Indeed.
we would like to say hello to Simon and happy birthday, along with their dog Lulu, Mother D, and cat Miss Biggles. Thank you so much for
Exactly.
listening.
Yes, Simon, of course, is a loyal viewer who we appreciate very, very much, and it's awesome to have all of you here. So, happy birthday tomorrow! Hope you will have a great day.
They didn't request Bat Tom, so
No, but I'm
leave
sure we
Bat-
can do a bat Tom just for Simon.
We can? Okay, all right. It's a birthday thing. Okay. Happy birthday to you, Simon. Happy birthday. I don't have the words with me, so I'm just making this crap up as I go. Hopefully you have many more birthdays. And I see you have a dog named Lulu. I like dogs. I need a bat dog. What do you guys think? I think that's a good idea. Happy birthday. Bye. He's going back to bed. And then we got on the Lobo news, JWT657 says, re-gun on Momoa as a Lobo. So are we still pretending to take Gunn at his word, right? Yeah, that's where I'm at too, on that response to Andre and some of that stuff. It's like, yeah, he gives us like half answers to everything.
Exactly. Like, it's the perfect politician answers, which are non-falsifiable and non-telling. We've gone through this before. Like, every single statement that James Gunn makes is extremely calculated. There is nothing coincidental about it. It's made to make us speculate, but without being able to really find the answer until it happens in real time.
Pretty much.
So, yeah. And about Lobo, the only thing Gunn has said, no, he'll only have like each actor playing one character. He didn't say anything at the time, and it was the perfect non-denial denial.
Pretty much. The Mecha J says, from bounding into comics, Jason Momoa rumored to exit role of Aquaman because Aquaman in Lost Kingdom is terrible. Yes, that's what we were discussing. Mecha J, I'm sure you sent this in way earlier, but
we could probably retitle the film Aquaman and the Lost Millions.
Pretty much.
That would be an apt description, probably, yes.
Yeah, and then STR Red Wolf says, I heard via Tug that the Aquaman 2 screener walkouts were due to the movie being too boring early on in the story, 20 minutes in. Ouch. I don't know about that, but yeah, that's difficult.
At the very end, they should have the camera just pull out, and they were in a plexiglass tank, and someone was just overfeeding them.
Troy Pacelli says, don't sell Amber short. There may well be some that walked out specifically because of her. You know, it's funny. I was going to make a joke, Troy, because everybody already knows about it. So that's why I said, that's why I'm not so sure why this other guy isn't saying it. But I say, wouldn't it be funny if that's the scene where everybody finds out she's pregnant? Everybody's just like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Like, you know. But no, I doubt it because everybody kind of already knew about it. But yeah.
I have to say, though, test screening audiences are really, really fickle. I mean, you're getting to see a movie like close to a year before everyone else. One would think that you'd be interested in staying there to finish it.
Well, I mean, normally they do. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time I've heard of people really walking out of a test screening like that. Outside of something like way back in the day, like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or something like that. Not really that I can think of. At least not that we've ever been privy to anyway, let's say. Let's see here. We got a few more on this subject, so let's try and grab those now as we're at it. Let's see here. In trailer voice, says Tripping Barn. Okay. Jason Momoa is Mr. Mitzelpitzlick. Did I say it right?
Pretty close. Yeah.
I know. I've never been good at saying it. We'll do a take two. Jason Momoa is Mr. Mitzpicklick. Is that better?
Mitzpicklick.
Mitzik. Fuck that. Nobody can say this name.
It's Polish.
That's why.
It's fifth dimensional Polish, yes.
Damn it. Thank you, Tripping Barn. Let's just go from the top here. We got Miguel Farah, who says, I've said this before, Chato for Governor General.
My Hungarian is better than my French.
There you go. And then Mr. Tickle Trunk says, Chato 2024, paprikash in every... Paprikash in every pot.
Paprikash.
Yes.
Come on.
Paprikash.
You emphasize the first syllable.
I don't have Hungarian in me at all. I'm sorry.
No. People have a very hard time with Hungarian. I hate it when I hear paprika. You guys can drop dead.
Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, eh? Just leave me alone. Deers says Midnight Snacks could be a short series. Amber Turd might have been set up as a scapegoat for overall failure. No, they won't put the blame on her.
I listen, the thing that people aren't talking about is that she has notoriety similar to the Flash dude, Ezra. If the movie was good, whatever her notoriety was, it would have helped the box office.
No, at this point, whatever damage that's been done.
No. Notoriety is king. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's another form of currency.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's it's fame whoring.
Pinochet's Helicopter Tour says, I won't apologize for community asking for more content from our stream creators. The call for more shows from you folks should tell you something. Oh, and well, we try. We have other retrospectives and things that people can always check out too that people don't, like our Cobra Kai one. But yes, thank you so much. Then we got Waltman says, then again, we're kind of turned off by Arnold and his pandemic take. Yeah. But then again, he has been doing YouTube clips now. Yeah. And he has a little horse and a little donkey. And they're adorable.
The donkey.
And a tank. Let's not forget the tank.
Oh, yeah. He's got a tank too.
I've got the tank. It's in the bar.
It's the same tank that he used to command while in the Austrian army.
Oh. Does the donkey and horse pull it on reins?
No, they live in the house.
It's American made, so I don't think so.
No, they live in the house.
Don't tell anyone which side Austria fought on.
I held back from making a joke that probably would have got us all canceled, so I'm just gonna.
Yes, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Bamagrad says, hail to everyone. Tom, I just sent you an email attachment of what I will use to send him get Martin Coe's attention and help me fanboy spoil it for the Critical Drinker at the ATL Comic-Con this weekend. Awesome. I saw the card you made up to give him, and I gave it the okay, and I'll check this out as soon as we're done here. My friend, thank you so much, Bamagrad. We appreciate it.
Bamagrad's awesome.
Yes, indeed. Awesome. He sends me Cracker Jacks. P. Selix, I think that's how you say it, sends in, what is that, Andre? That's $29.99 Peruvian. Is that
greetings?
I think that's Polish zloty.
Polish.
Yes. Polish zloty.
Greetings from Poland, of course. Thank you for providing entertainment instead of streaming services these days. I'm watching you since December. Wow. Well, welcome.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Glad you found us.
Yeah, so you're a newbie.
Jesus Davila. Going back to Poland one of these days, actually.
Yeah. Jesus Davila sends in a super sticker. Let's see what it is. It is a thumbs up. Thank you so much for the thumbs up, Jesus. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, please do. It doesn't cost you a dime. KN Kareen says, well, if you call it fired, not renewed does not matter. They replaced Henry Cavill, so we as an audience don't care about what words are used. We are still upset and optics look bad. Yeah, to a point it does, but like, I mean, we're going to, someday somebody will sit down and do a tell-all interview about this. It'll probably be Henry or somebody, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, he'd be one of the people most likely to
I mean, the other part too, he's technically not replaced. Someone is succeeding him, right? Because a replacement would happen if he's in a movie and then, you know, like Kevin Spacey had to be removed and then replaced, you know, by Christopher Plummer. That's the actual accent of replace, because words are very important, especially in today's day. And if you conflate their definition, that gets into dangerous territory.
James Gunn in his political answers, he never once said they would never use Henry Cavill again. He just said that Henry wasn't the right Superman for this movie, right? He didn't. That's all he answered. So, I mean, again, political answer. I get where you're coming from, though, Kareen. But at this point, because of all this stuff that has happened now, I'm ready to move on from Henry, to be honest with you.
Oh, I think it's better for Henry if he moves
I think
on.
it's better for everybody involved at this point, because to me, during this whole hubbub, it became very apparent to me that, in my personal opinion, again, this is just my take, I got to the point where I'm like, Henry's just too big for this role. Now I can't see him other than Henry Cavill. I can't watch a Superman movie without seeing Henry Cavill. You know, it's too much for me.
You're not going to you're not going to see him lost in the role, or you're not going to be lost in the experience. Yeah, I get that.
No, it's a little, you know, it's just a little too much now. It was kind of hard enough with like Ben Affleck and a few of the others. Ben really had to convince me, and he did, but he didn't get much time to do anything really.
No,
so.
neither of them did. That's the thing, right? They both were in some films that I would call somewhat underwhelming at best.
And this may be just a me problem, but you know what, Billy? This is also something that they need to take into consideration. And this is something they always take into consideration when they're casting the role of somebody like Superman or James Bond. And that's why sometimes there's some actors who are just too big for those roles.
I can give you the summary of what it is, though. Split fan base. And this is a problem that DC in particular has, because you have divided your audience into several segments. And this is something that, for as long as the Matt Reeves verse is a thing, they'll keep on making worse. Because now basically you have a couple of competing visions and a couple of competing universes. So this is kind of like the problem here. Now you have people who, they have their Superman in Henry Cavill, they have their universe in Zack Snyder. Some will be true to the previous administration and their wokeness. Others will be very ready to give Gunn a try. But what you really have there is a split fan base. And obviously that's the thing that James Gunn tried to address in the first place. Corrine is right, though. Just because of the optics of the situation, not a great start. Not a great start when people felt that we're getting Henry Cavill back again, because that was the message that was given. Granted by Henry Cavill by way of Garcia, but still that was the message that people got. We won. We got Henry Cavill back again, and then they had that rug pulled out just underneath them for James Gunn to find someone else. I mean, he wants to try to unite the fans behind his vision, but that unfortunately is not a great.
It's him. It's him starting a few steps further behind than he initially thought.
Yes,
and you know that's not ideal. But I mean, listen, it's better to kind of wipe the slate clean and start from fresh. My real question is that how many of these Henry Cavill as Superman fans are actually going to show up for his film Argylle, which comes out pretty soon?
Sock fans are.
Sock fans definitely will.
Well, and that's the thing is that, you know, it didn't really seem to affect the box office for Black Adam, and that was one thing they took into consideration, I'm sure. But anyhow, Mr. Tickletrunk says they're almost all out now. Almost all out. No, Cavill just left early. Yeah, pretty much. Like, nobody, it's not like Cavill's the only one. Like, we pretty much got an idea that Gal Gadot is possibly not coming back. Ben Affleck is definitely not coming back.
We saw their tweets. We saw like Gal Gadot trying to rally the fans in her favor in a subtle way, as they've all done. You still have Zachary Levi Levi of Shazam fame also trying to rally the fan support, saying that how this movie depends is going to determine his future with the role. So you still have like the actors trying. I don't think that anyone has like told them, "Oh, you are definitely not coming back. This is over." Probably because they want them excited for the publicity tour.
Well, and it's in their best interest, the actor's best interest, if they have any, incentive in their contract to have the film perform at a certain level.
Yeah.
Well, not just that. This whole thing I feel bad for Henry in this situation because it isn't his fault, and he probably did get duped and pulled around by not just Danny Garcia, but a little bit by the studio. But in this situation now, unlike the Zachary situation, where I haven't seen all of his comments on it, but the ones I have seen, he's been pretty dignified in it, and he knows. I think he's playing the game, or at least the card of, just like the studio isn't going to directly fire him, he doesn't want to directly, throw shots at the studio because he'd like to work again. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these people know that too. It's not so much that they give a shit about playing this character again so much as they just want to keep working, right? So like, they don't want to be bad mouthing the studio and putting themselves in a position where they might not end up working for that studio ever again. I mean, to be honest, like I wonder how much Bautista, or how the hell you say his name, Bautista, has fucked himself up over at Disney with some of the shit he said. Like, makes you wonder what chances he's got of working there again after James Gunn leaves. So, I mean, it's just one of those things you got to keep in mind too. So, but anyway, moving on from that, unless anybody else had anything else to add to that. No. God King Dictator says, could the pre-gun stuff hurt brand like Marvel?
This is
we'll have to wait and see,
isn't it? Yeah, because that is the thing that I would be worried about, especially when you see they have Aquaman 2 coming up. It's so bad people are even leaving from pre-screenings of it and test screenings. Script, you made the point that it's only going to make the stuff that comes out later by comparison look better, and this is true. However, how many will decide that, this is so bad, Marvel is bad now, DC is bad now, I'm out, and then they never check out the James Gunn stuff?
That is entirely a possibility. The only saving grace Warner Brothers will really have in their back pocket is word of mouth. For the ones that actually take the chance to go see these the new movie, the new direction of DC, and tell their friends and family, wow, this was really good. It was a movie that did this. We have no idea if it's going to actually achieve that. Like, bear in mind. But James Gunn does have a very positive track record on delivering entertainment to the audience. So I can see it plausibly that it would have a soft like the first Superman film. If it is a real hit, it'll probably have a softer opening first week, and then a very, very strong second week, and might have the legs. And ideally, I mean, I think Warner Brothers is hoping that they get a Top Gun Maverick type of reception with this. That is my assumption. But yeah, they have a lot working against them, and I do not begrudge any fans to be apprehensive about going to see a James Gunn Superman film if they have their reservations today. I think they're completely justified, because we've had 10 years of basically a schizophrenic DC franchise, and who's to say that won't continue? We don't know yet. We have to we're stuck on the waiting game. But yeah, that's basically all I can really add to that.
Would you say that Marvel's now stepping into their schizophrenic stage?
I think they've been there for the last 2-3 years.
Okay, fair enough.
At the very least, I mean, their first red flag was, oh, we're going to do a 5-year time jump after the last movie, and now we're never going to address it again afterwards.
They keep bringing it up, though. They keep bringing it up, though.
kind of passively.
Well, I mean, Ant-Man, right at the beginning. Oh, well, the blip, and then these people came back. They can't help being homeless. That I was like, oh my gosh, you guys can't get away from the thing you broke and didn't fix when you broke it. So
yeah, and the fact is that again, they get maybe 3 to 5 minutes of discussion of that, and then it's never brought up again for the rest of either the TV series or the film.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to suffer now. I think that these superhero properties are going to be a hot mess for a long time to come. But pre-gun, post-gun doesn't matter. The minute Marvel broke down and went a completely different direction than what they had originally planned, the minute they got rid of gun because of
a tweet, actually, literally.
And then we've got go ahead, Culture Finish.
I was just going to say that was the beginning of the end for Marvel. So
Aaron Pipe says, I understood that Zaslav lost it over Miller's situation and made the decision for a reset and recasting. It was more reactionary in that sense than planned, correct? Not to my knowledge.
This is news to me.
Yeah, same.
Because this sounds like they're correlating two very separate situations here. Like I said, when Zaslav first came in the door, the shortest version I can say is the first things he said is he wants Joker 2 going right away, and he wanted to restructure DC into an actual studio, basically like Marvel was, meaning he wanted somebody to head it up like a Kevin Feige. And from that moment on, he asked all kinds of people, talked to all kinds of people. James Gunn, though, was one of the people that kept coming up as the top choice. And then the Miller thing, though, just kept happening, right? Like it just, and this movie kept getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off for various reasons, due to reshoots and other things and changes in the universe up to that point. Because you got to remember, they had gone through 3 regimes or 4 regimes previous to this. When it came to DC, as far as who's in charge, it went from Snyder to Ben Affleck for a hot second, and then Berg and what's his face? I just spaced him out. The guy who worked on Green Lantern and
comic
stuff.
book guy.
Oh, Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns, yeah.
Jeff Johns and Greg Berlanti, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other guys who came in after that that were gone now, and so like we've had several different people in charge of this. So this thing has gone through so many different regimes already. This movie in particular, and the only you've got this kid who's your main star in the movie, who's not only in 1.2.3 roles in it, he's out there in the headlines every other week. So like, yeah, there was a story, and I was told, and I guess it had come up other places, so outside of where I would heard it from, that when one of the last times Miller wound up in the headlines, Zaslav completely lost it so much that you could hear him screaming down the hall. And yeah, they were looking at recasting the role until all this shit hit the fan with the revamp. But the revamp kind of came along, I think, more with James Gunn. I think that was more him and Safran's choice. I think that's my take on it. And Zaslav was willing to work with that because he's somebody who's wanting to get DC back in working condition.
And
yeah, I mean, he's
producer that has no problem throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So
yeah, he's done that many times. I mean, with entire channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
True TV, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, he's one of those executives that's capable of stepping back and looking at the biggest possible picture to see how the pieces fit together. And he's looking at DC, and he's looking at all these other IPs that they control. And he's like, these aren't making us the money that they should. These things are incredibly valuable, but they're underperforming. So how do we change that up? So I'm sure that definitely, played a major role in his decision, not just to bring in Gunn, but to, allow for a complete change of direction.
Yeah, but with that, you have to leave us. Actually, Culture, it says.
Unfortunately, yeah, real world stepping into my life right now. But I had a good time, gentlemen. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and evening. And for those of you in the audience, do double check and make sure you're still subscribed to all these wonderful human beings and channels, specifically Mr. Paul Chato, who is
Thank you.
2,300 away from being 100,000
Around there, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Keep
yeah.
it going,
So-
keep it going. Paulie just hit 5K yesterday too, by the way, on Latino Slant. So congratulations to Latino Slant. Yeah.
Good to him. All right. Well, and on that note, gentlemen, see you later.
Support your
Take
culture
care.
casino.
Do support him. Yes, indeed.
And I have to go at my 2:00.
Oh no. Let's see. Do we have any specific ones for Paul here either? I don't think we have any specifically for you. So you do have to leave us then too, right now, or
Yes, I
Okay.
have to. It's a working day for me. I have
Okey-dokey.
I have my levers of powers to lever. You know, I got clients that I have to
Clientele.
be nice to.
That's a good
Well-
one. You have clients, you have to clientele. Yeah, those pesky customers.
Not a
darn
problem.
them.
I enjoy my clients. I'm very
Miguel wants you
blessed to
shirtless
have-
before you leave, though.
No, not today.
No, we thank you though, Paul, as always, for coming in and joining us. As always, we love your takes and your humor. And
Well,
Paul,
it's
you
always
should
nice
get
to be-
an.
I spent most of my time today just listening to you guys. I didn't have much to add. I'm sorry, except for bad jokes.
Oh, that's fine. No, we love the jokes. I love the jokes.
They were good. It brightened up my afternoon.
Yeah, we love the jokes. Always, always. So thank you so much, Paul. Anything to plug on your way out the door?
I'm working on a better late than ever review of Turning Red, the controversial movie from Pixar.
The
about
period
Red
movie.
Panda. And I've spent some time actually checking other people's reviews everywhere from the religious right to well, across the spectrum to even Asian reviewers of the movie, and I don't think there's been a wider range of comments for any movie or TV property out there. Usually, the discussion around any project like Blood Origin or something is, I love it because it's woke, or I hate it because it's woke. This Turning Red really grabs people emotionally from all sorts of perspectives. The funniest thing I found is the volume of, let's say, people on the religious right who did reviews of the movie without ever watching it.
Oh, the frequent stuff that I was able to find is how many people miss the fact that it was called the Sky Dome and it's not the Rogers Center. So
Well, that's a Toronto thing.
that's a Toronto thing, yeah. Because again, this movie takes place in the early 2000s. It doesn't take place in current day.
No, and I lived in that Chinatown for 4 years. I learned Chinese, Cantonese, Nehoma, Jagin, Mngai, and a little bit, a smattering, learned how to cook. And so there's, I'm not a Sinophile, but I certainly understand maybe more than most people about the community that was there. And it's just it's so funny that people complaining about the fact, oh, those adults didn't look, were portrayed in an exaggerated way. No. There's just so much good about that movie. And the main thing too is that it deals with the last taboo, and that is girls and their periods. And that seems to be the thing that scares more people than anything else. And the fact that Disney did not play it in the theaters just shows that they're scaredy bum bums. So, you can have violence and people's heads being cut off, but heaven help you if you broach the topic of a young girl's coming of age, then that's like,
It's
that's
not
complete.
so much that, Paul. It's just, does it need to be in a fucking Disney movie? Like,
no, Pixar does adventurous things about stuff in the mind and shit like that. The problem is in North America, it's not considered a natural act.
it's just not something we
No,
want to
that's
discuss.
your problem. That
It's-
is your problem.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. That's the thing. Puberty is undeniable.
Yeah, but are we going to get a bunch of movies about males going through puberty now too?
Well, trans women, yes, if they can find a way to put the tampon.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah.
And then technically, the
be
men's
careful
puberty is
because
Porky's
Disney
in
might
American
do
Pie.
that.
So I thought it was a very brave movie, brilliantly animated, and even the complaints that some people had were there was too much anime influence in it. Like, people complained about that movie in ways that no other movie before or after complained about it, and I think the director Domi she is a genius, and she has a bright future ahead of her.
I just don't understand these folks' obsessions with these things, though. That's part of the problem too. It's just
Obsessions with what?
Just this kind of stuff. Why put it in a Disney movie? I like, if it's an educational film for kids, it's one thing. If you're doing like a one-off that goes to schools for something, that's fine. I just, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I really don't understand why a Disney movie should be revolved around a girl getting her period. It just really
it's only nominally about it, and people confuse the one problem that the movie made was it kind of confused the becoming a red panda with the period, and people went, "Oh, that's your period panda." What really wasn't. There's a long history with the family where let's call it a curse, a family. Well, speaking of, sorry, I'm actually destroying my own argument right in front of myself. So there's a family situation where all the women turned into pandas because of something that happened in the past, and they had to follow protocol to not have that panda for the rest of their life. So anyways, the movie, I think the movie made 2 slip-ups, but other than that, Domi is going to be a force of nature. Well, brilliant animator. And it's unfortunate that the subject matter, which bothers you to a degree, and the Frantics did a sketch on it, which I might just when I'm doing the review, I might just tag the Frantics sketch at the very end, which is a father talking to her daughter about getting her first period while he's on the GO train going home and trying to talk her through using a tampon.
See, that's a little different, but like if it's a sketch in like an SNL skit or something like that, that's towards adults.
I just find it funny that it's the last taboo, and it's completely natural. It's just, I think women in general scare people. Women's health concerns scare people. I just find it, absolutely fascinating. It's a wonderful little movie that deserved to be in theaters. But the commentary is very, very funny, especially from the religious right.
It's also got an interesting dynamic where the mother is technically going through the main character journey, not so much as the daughter, because it's more about the mom's flaws and things. But I mean,
yes.
there's lots to explore in that. But yeah, I mean, there's some exaggerated aspects to it, but there are some very valid points to the review that have nothing to do with the subjects that Tom is concerned with as well.
And a lot of
that's fair. I understand.
A lot of people complained about the fact that the girl was insolent to the parents, and they didn't like that. But some of the reviews had it that the mother and daughter remained detached right to the very end. No, at the very end they reconcile each other's positions. So I don't know where people got the fact that somehow the mother remained the antagonist throughout. No, they make peace at the very end, and the girl remains respectful of her mother. So I don't know where they got that from.
To be fair, I haven't seen it, so I shouldn't really say much more than that.
I think it's worth seeing. It is certainly better than Inside Out. Pretty much every movie after Inside Out.
That's a pretty tall order.
I think this is a much more heartwarming, less in your mind.
Because that's one I would consider like the last Pixar movie.
Yeah. Well, there was in the Incredibles 2 after that, which I didn't think.
Again, I reiterate, I consider that the last Pixar movie.
Wait a second. Cars 3 came out then, Tom.
I reiterate, I consider that the last Pixar movie.
Oh, and the one after that was the Happy Dinosaur or something.
Even though
you're right. I mean, that was for many people the last Pixar movie, Inside Out. But I would put this above. I would put
Lasseter
had Red above Inside Out.
Some things to do with dinosaur and some other things, but the last dinosaur that or whatever the hell it was called, the littlest dinosaur, whatever the hell it was called, that thing was ill-conceived from the start. Like I don't know, they should have known after the second try on that thing that this was not going to work. So, well, Jonas says Luca's amazing. Fair enough. I have not seen Luca.
I haven't seen Luca.
I just after Toy Story 4, that's probably the last Pixar movie I watched. I think I threw shit at the TV after that movie.
Didn't see Pixar. Didn't see Toy Story 4 either.
Oh my God.
I can't comment on that. Anyways, so I'm in the middle of that, just doing a broader, more researched.
20 minutes later.
You know, it's one of those things that you can do and come up with some interesting stuff by including other people's dialogue and ideas around The Good Dinosaur. That's what it was called. And I think that's also, you know, to me, what's fascinating about the internet, I've talked about it before, is that we exist only to create commentary. The stuff that we're doing is not as important as people entertaining each other in the comment section. That's our job now. So just keep creating good, interesting stuff that is kindling, that sparks people's interest to comment nicely to each other. You be nice to each other. Okay.
Well, that's one thing we do try to do is be nice to each other.
And I think
so with that, we bid you. Oh, we got one for you. Marksman 117B says, Paul, I think the issue is the people who never grew up and obsess over childhood and puberty, which now has created a stronger revulsion. That's a Freudian thing, right? You have to have the opportunity to finish. Look, I'm not going to deny that there isn't a prudishness or a I don't know the type of word to really put into it. But like, again, I'm not even trying to say that it's so much taboo, but is it really something that necessarily belongs in a commercial family film?
I mean,
I guess is my
in
big
Europe,
question.
If this was released in Europe, it would have been fine. Because Europeans have a much more mature approach to sex than they do in North America.
Nobody cared.
Yes,
there was
exactly.
No debate. There was nothing. It was just another Pixar movie.
And how was it? How was it received in Norway?
Fine, I guess. I don't remember.
Yeah, so Europe. I find as much as I love the United States, it has this weird duality towards prudishness, but also creating hooters.
No, and I get you. Look, like I said again, if depends on it's just the fact that it's in a Disney kids film. That's the only thing I'm having an issue with, to be honest with you. Like if you get
and if it was a French film, she would have been married off.
Wow.
So I mean, you know,
Look, I'm just saying, like Carrie has a lot about that in its subject matter too. I don't have a problem with it being in Carrie. Why? Because it's a story that's directed towards adults.
Well,
that's why,
people did say that, no, this movie should be parental guidance. And I think it was originally
it might be rated PG.
Pardon me?
Isn't it rated PG?
Yeah. So it's properly rated.
Well, PG doesn't really have anything weight anymore because PG-13 is the old PG anyway.
It was properly rated, but Disney threw it into Disney Plus. Now, the other thing that my understanding is that for a good chunk of time, it actually had very good numbers on Disney Plus. So anyway, I will leave you at that. We got started on
but Mecca J says the movie was just okay, but the scene with the girl twerking in her panda form to annoy her mom near the end was pretty cringe, though.
I don't care.
Now, twerking is a thing that I think is kind of its time has passed.
No, man, I remember in 2000s when twerking started to come to light, and 15 to 17-year-old girls were doing it in front of their family to get a rise out of them, and we all thought it was stupid then. So I mean,
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's kind of
that was a technique that came to life in clubs that supported lap dancing. So
yeah.
So it's certainly not something worthwhile teaching your kid or installing a pole in your living room. I recommend don't do that.
If it doesn't go to another floor for an emergency exit, it's not useful.
That's right.
Yes.
If you don't have sirens in your house, then don't add a pole.
Well, I don't know about the sirens part, but script is right. If you're having a pole in your house, it must lead to another level.
That's right. Okay. It was a great way to finish off. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for hanging in for another 20
That's what I'm
minutes.
working on right now, and it's a lot to write and get my head around, but I'm really enjoying it a lot. So hopefully you'll like the final version of the video.
The clip will be a good warm-up.
Yes, it will
Yes.
be. We'll
You
talk
take
to you
care.
later, everyone. Bye.
All right, take care.
We got Greg, who's been a member now for 16 months. Thank you so much, NZ Greg. We appreciate that. Your Muslim uncle says you can't spell infidelity without Fidel. Oh. It's true, though.
It is.
Gladiator says, I'm sick of Doomcock making up fake news and hating everything. Star Trek Picard Season 3 is good. And he called me a female dog for watching it. Ouch. Like directly called you that, or did you just say that in general? Because sometimes as commentators, we get passionate and we fly off the handle about things without thinking about how some people in our audience might react to it. But sometimes you can't take that stuff personally. Now, as far as like making things up, I don't think he makes things up. I think he does genuinely believe some of the things sometimes people are telling him without maybe checking them out first, but that's his, that's Doomcock. As far as Picard season 3,
with dealing with sources, like you get information, you vet it to the best of your ability, but sometimes the information doesn't pan out for whatever reason. So I don't think that Doomcock has ever deliberately made something up in his defense. I think that he has reported on the rumors that he has heard, that he has reported are rumors, but then for whatever reason, those rumors don't pan out. That can happen. But in terms of like calling audience members female dog and stuff for watching it, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, and again, and if he did it directly, then hey, I can't, whatever. But I mean, like I said, I know sometimes even I am guilty of it, of saying something and without thinking about how some people are going to react to it. And I don't mean anything personally to some people. And on the other side, sometimes people take things a little too personally, sometimes too. But with the card thing, that is a sore subject for him. I've tried discussing it with him on the streams and in private, and it's just one of those things that he's very stubborn about. And I'm not going to get into all that business here. Look, I've seen the first episode. I liked it so far. I am not gonna say it's great yet. It does have issues, and we have issues that are still going to be outstanding when it's all said and done, and I can't deny that. But yeah, that's the best I can say on it. I can't defend.
We're in the restaurant that's under new management session.
Yeah,
they're cooking food and they're giving us what we've ordered, but we're still apprehensive because the name on the building hasn't changed, but the people that are running it have. So it's
pretty much. I mean, it's still got the same owner, but new management. Exactly.
Yeah.
Final Smash says, "What's your prediction for?" Oh, this is a good question. For biggest film of the year, calling it now. Mario Brothers movie is about to shock the world. You might not be wrong, Final Smash, but I don't know if that has the oomph to make it as biggest film of the year. But what do you guys think? Script, any thoughts on what possibly could be the biggest movie of the year this
I don't know. Mario Brothers has got 40 years of history and fans that haven't been done dirty. There's a good pattern of success with the video game adaptations with Sonic. So it has a lot going for them. Their marketing strategy is brilliant. Again, I don't know if it'll be the biggest, but it's definitely a top 3 contender.
Right. Andre?
I agree. I think it's going to be Super Mario. Only because I can't think of anything right now that has the chance to beat it. Super Mario, I think, is going to be huge until someone can point me at something that has the potential to be bigger. I agree. I think this will be the biggest movie of the year. Just because I can't think of anything else that is coming that has a chance to beat it.
You have that, and that I will agree with. Like, that's why I won't totally count out the possibility. The only thing I think that might do better than Mario Brothers this year is Mission Impossible, because Tom Cruise is coming off this huge high of Top Gun. But I agree. I think people are underestimating Mario Brothers. I have been saying that for a while now, because there's a lot of people who don't even think it'll hit $1 billion. I'm like, oh, this thing's gonna hit $1 billion. Oh, easy. So the only other movie I think it might have some competition with would probably be Guardians of the Galaxy. But that's going to be a questionable one, because I mean, traditionally, how big have the Guardians films done? I like the second one, I think, hit $1 billion, didn't it? Or no? I know the first one didn't. Trying to remember its box office.
I think it did like
just under $1
$870.
billion. Yeah, 863 I got here. So okay, so the third one has a chance to hit $1 billion. But I think you're right. You might be right. Mario might be the bigger film for all the reasons that Script said specifically, and for the reasons that they have just that Super Bowl ad was fucking genius, just fucking pure genius. Like they managed to get so many people not only aware of that movie, but like in our age range, are now probably going to be interested in the film too, more than they were before. So I think you're going to get a lot of families going to this movie. You got a point here, Final Smash. You might be right. That's a good prediction. Donald J. Skywalker says, read some articles about saying the new DCEU will start with Jonathan Kent as Superman and Batman's son taking over Batman. That worries me. Have you guys heard anything about this? Thoughts? Love your show. No, I've not heard anything about the former or the latter. Although
this is news to me, so I don't believe it.
The latter could be plausible. The former, no, because we're getting a younger Superman. So why the hell would he already have kids?
Oh, I think he's implying that whoever informed him of this, that the younger Superman is Jonathan Kent, but that is not the case.
No.
Jonathan Kent, as far as I know, is not a Cub reporter. And James Gunn has already defined it as a Cub reporter so far. That is subject to change, perhaps, but that's what he went with. Batman's son taking over as Batman. Well, if he's going with the Damian Wayne version and relationship, that would make they're casting someone that's going to be like 12 or 13 years old. So that's a good decade out before they could take over as Batman, theoretically. But that might be in the works. Again, it's too early to tell at this point. But no, this we can only speculate at this point. But I don't think any of those things are true. And also, it's not going to be an EU, so it's just DCU. So don't have anything to worry about there.
And they're going to cast somebody between the ages of 35 and 45, probably for Batman. I bet that'd be my guess.
Yeah, which I think is a mistake. They should cast them in comparable age to whoever they get for Superman. Keep them contemporaries.
I agree. If you're not going to do an old Batman and young Superman, then you got to have them the same age. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because you already got the old Batman, young Superman, and Dawn of Justice, or what was it? Batman v Superman. That's the one.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with Script there, Andre. And you just said you haven't heard anything to this effect. Don't have anything to add, or?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't believe this a second. Because you said you read some articles. Which articles were those? And what
did it have giant freaking and robot in the top of the screen? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, or something like that.
Sorry, not to be.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that until I hear it from elsewhere.
No, because this is, and just to kind of put a cap on it, like this reminds me of the whole like, oh, live action. Miles Morales is going to take over for Peter Parker. That's never going to happen, at least not in the next 20, 30 years anyway, because they'll never make a Spider-Man movie without Peter Parker. And that's kind of the whole point of Peter Parker as Spider-Man, why we started that whole thing to begin with. because that's the truth, right? Because the world knows Spider-Man is Peter Parker. The world knows Superman is Clark Kent. The only Jonathan Kent the world knows is his dad. The only people who know who Jonathan Kent, the kid, is are a very small group of comic book fans at this point, because DC's numbers are dwindling, folks. Let's be real about it.
Well, they're dwindling because they have hack writers that can't come up with a clever name for Superman's son aside from Jonathan.
Jonathan, exactly.
Like, yes, let's name me after my dead father, so whenever he goes to visit his grave, my son sees his name on a gravestone. That's not going to just damage the kid growing up. Jeez.
Or in the very least, you would think he would name him after the father he never got to really meet and know very well, like Jor-El.
No, or follow the family tradition. Like Clark's first name is his mother's maiden name, and
that's
Lois
true.
Lane is a male name, first name. So
name him Lane. Lane Kent.
Lane.
I don't mind that. That sounds fine.
Yeah, but I'm actually thinking about the characters. I'm not thinking about the derivativeness of trying to sell a comic desperately to people that aren't interested in buying my work.
Exactly. No, Donald, I don't buy into this at all unless I hear otherwise. Does this dress make my ass look big? Says Devotion, Korean war film re-released tomorrow. Oh, there you go. Speaking of war films, Andre, did you watch that trailer I sent you?
No, because I've been away.
I know you have, so I wasn't sure if you'd be able to. You need to check out that trailer. It's for a movie called Sisu. It's a Finnish John Wick who kills a bunch of Nazis.
Oh, okay. This sounds interesting. This sounds like something from the Finnish Winter War.
It's we got the trailer shown to us last night, or somebody brought it up, and Sisu, that's how it's pronounced, I guess.
Sisu. Okay, this is news to me. I have to check this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, we could watch the trailer, but I don't know. I'd have to go look and see if I got claimed for it last night first. But yeah, Jericho Leon says Warner Brothers needs cash fast. The DCU reboot only delays that. Yes and no.
Kind of, but not really. I mean, sticking with what they had right now would delay it even further because they didn't make any money off the last one.
Like, basically where they're at is the other end of that gap. Now, remember, you guys got to rewind. I don't know if you were listening, Jericho, before, but I brought up how when everybody was like, why don't they just release Ghostbusters now? Why don't they just release Top Gun now, when we were in the midst of COVID? And I'm like, I'll tell you why. Because when we get to the other side of this, they ain't going to have shit to release. So they got to have a gap to fill. This is the gap. They're in between that gap right now. So they kind of just got James Gunn in under the wire of the timing they need him to come in to start a new thing when the old thing is on its way out. They'll have about a padding of about roughly a year-ish. If you don't, like, a little less than that if you count Blue Beetle or whatever. So, like, and Joker 2 is basically that bridge, right? So at that point, we know that that's where, okay, we've crossed that bridge. Now we're getting the new stuff. And that is where I was saying all this time before was that gap. And it works out just perfectly when Zaslav came in. He got James Gunn in under the gun. And all the studios, we're going to see this coming up here. And this is going to get worse if there's a writer's strike. And I don't even want to get into that part too deep. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, right, Script Doctor, but because if that happens and everything
start next month, and it's
not sounding good from some of the shit that I've heard. And if that happens, everything comes to a dead, screeching fucking halt.
Well, actually, two bad things could happen. The first is that studios can't hire union writers, which means that a lot of writers that aren't in the union are probably going to be hired and then earn their union points as a result of that.
Okay, they can. That was a question I had for you, Script, because we were asked that last week, and I wasn't 100% sure how the rules worked with that.
Yeah, it's again, listen, there's always a possibility that a dozen Kurtzmans can come as a result of the writer's strike, because that's how Kurtzman got his career essentially started the first time with the writer's strike back in the late 90s. He was a scab. He crossed the picket line and started working, and he was able to make connections and get to where he is now because of that. So that is a possibility that's going to happen, because again, the studios need to make movies and they need to put out stuff, and a writer's strike does put a big damper on that. And it's kind of funny because you have this kind of double speak where everyone in the studio system will tell you how much they laud and need and desire writers. Yet when push comes to shove, they're usually treated like garbage to a degree. And then when a strike happens, they remember how valuable they're needed, because when the executives try to write something or when actors try to write something, it never ends up performing as well as they'd expect it to. There's always rare exceptions, but most of the time it's not usually a good product. And then you have young up and comers, some people that aren't ready, who they have a script that needs work, but they can't. But they're not union, so they can hire them, and then they get notes from the executives as they would normally, and they rework it that way. And sometimes they get a good product, and sometimes they don't. You then have other writers, like for myself, for instance, where we were part of the union, and then because we didn't make our points, we are now out of the union, which they only do to really non-U.S. citizens. If you're an American and you're supposed to screenplay, you're in the union, you're stuck in there, and you're paying dues even if you don't make your points. But regardless of the fact, like, yeah, it's going to be a messy show if they don't come to a proper settlement for their negotiations. And if it does go into a strike, you're going to have another gap of weird and bad content and some up and comers that could be talented in a couple of years, getting very useful opportunities early on, and it being a double-edged sword of whether or not they're going to be able to deliver. And it's going to be something to keep a close eye on, but this happens every couple of years.
Yep.
So hopefully they can negotiate something that's useful and sustainable, so that they don't have to worry about this in another 2 years. But I don't think that's going to happen with the current representatives. And unfortunately, even though I do like the majority of what he says, what the current president of the WGA wants. So.
Yeah, thank you, because we did have a super chat about that last week when you weren't here, and I wanted to get you to address some of those things, because I'm not 100% sure of all the rules, and now we have a better idea of how that works. So thank you, Script. And I know, like, the last few we've had were big deals. So yeah.
All I know is that a couple of filmmakers I'm working with are very happy. They were disappointed at first, but are right now very happy that I'm not currently at the part of the union, even though if we do get green light on our stuff, I will be by the time we start production. So it's going to be all over the place.
That's the thing, because we were asked about it, and I said, well, you'll have some things that'll get canceled, some things that'll never get green light, and then some things that were probably had less of a chance to get green light might get green lit now. That's the thing, because they don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's so weird right now.
Maverick Christian sends in 5 and says, the 90s Superman the animated series taught us that Mitz Yez Spitlick is pronounced Mix Yez Spitlick. Yes, I vaguely remember
Godfrey
that.
Did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gilbert Gottfried. Yes. Indeed. Thank you for that, Maverick. Mix Yez Spitlick. Yes. Jericho Leon. Oh, we got this one already. But thank you for that. A DC reboot only delays that. We got that already. That's what got us down the writer's strike business. Call sign Alucard says, I know why they are walking out. They kill JMAM, Jason Momoa and Amber or an Aquaman. Oh, they kill Aquaman? Oh, wow. No, I doubt it.
Wouldn't be fun if it was Amber's movie after that, though.
You know what it could be? You know what's funny? That makes me think. I wonder if they kill Batman. He does have that cameo. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, but that would be something I could see people walking out on.
Oh yeah,
you killed Batman? Fuck you! And they walk out.
In the first 20 minutes, you kill Batman.
Yeah. I doubt it. I have nothing. I was just making shit up, but no, I don't believe that, because if that's the case, people would be more pissed off at the Flash screenings, because I think people are blinded by the Flash test screenings by Michael Keaton to stop and realize, oh shit, we're seeing Man of Steel all over again, only with a chick.
I hope we clip that, because that might be the reality of it.
Yeah. Bass player 2011 Iffy says, Europe's views on sex are similar to how US views violence. I see where you're going with this, but I don't know if I can agree with that. I agree with it in the sense of maybe ratings, but yeah, as far as personally, no. because we don't like violence, but like in our movies, like, yeah, they'll be more lax on violence in movies than they will sex in that respect. Yes.
Yeah, I think you may be mixing sex with nudity, and in many European places, like the things that will drive the rating up is first and foremost violence, and then there's like sex, whereas pure nudity that is viewed much more liberally. I think that may be what you're thinking about. Like, for instance, this is something that like many Americans observe about, like, for instance, PG-13 movies. If you want to make sure a PG-13, like, there really doesn't have to be that huge a difference between a PG-13 and an R-rated movie where action is concerned. There's like plenty movies that are PG-13 in the States, which get like rated 15 in Europe because of the action and the violence.
Right.
But then you have the flip side. You have movies which are rated R for like nudity and sexual scenes, and they can get 12 in Europe.
And that's what I mean. Exactly. And that's what I'm getting at. And I see that aspect of it. Now as far as sex, because like you can show, like, that's the thing. The difference is the rating system here doesn't view certain things, like the sex aspect of it used to determine the rating, right? Like if you're just showing nudity with no sex involved, you used to be able to get away with it in a PG or PG-13. Now that has changed. Now it's almost automatically gets you an R anymore. To where before, like if sex was involved with the nudity, that would determine whether or not it got an R rated or not. You know what I mean? So like you could show some tits just flashing and you could get a PG or PG-13 back in the day. No problem. But the moment you show a sexual act involving some nudity, bingo, R rating. But you can show people having sex as long as there's no nudity and get away with a PG-13. See, like it's very stupid.
No, it's also at the whim of the MPAA. Like,
exactly. And that's what I was getting to, what Script is saying here. There's a great documentary, even though it's many years old, but it really gives you an idea of how dumb the fucking ratings are in this country and how they're viewed. And I do agree with you in that sense, because it's called This Film Is Not Yet Rated. It was on YouTube and Netflix for a while. You could probably find it still. It's a great fucking documentary.
It's a great documentary, and the best part is when you kind of realize that this movie that is not yet rated will have to actually go before the MPAA, and they actually have a whole section of it where they are basically following members of the MPAA in their personal lives and trying to figure out who they are. So you could just imagine being in that room and seeing the reactions of everyone's faces when they're watching themselves being spied on by a private detective.
Because they found out, because the thing is, and this is kind of the clincher of it, is the ratings board is supposed to be made up of anonymous people from in and around the industry who have children of a specific age. And they come to find out most of them were, if they did have children, were adult children already and much more older than they were supposed to be. So that's another, like, it's
time has aged them out of qualifications for the
sport, and then the section with Trey Parker and Matt Stone is fucking brilliant, because they tell you, they break the system. It is beautiful how they've done it. And they've talked about it a few other places too, about basically how between working on the movie Orgasmo, they got it slapped with an NC-17. And they soon realized and got away with a hell of a lot worse in Basketball and South Park Longer and Uncut than they did in Orgasmo. And they soon realized it's all because of the studio system. It's a short version of it. And it was because in Orgasmo, they turned the movie in, and you got to have the film printed. Is there a fee or something like that? I think you also got to pay to have it rated, Script or something like that.
It's usually within the budget, but yeah, like
but he was talking about how it was a steal, but since they're in indie, that's a big deal for them, right? Like, because they didn't have the money. So they sent it in, they got an NC-17 right away, and they're like, well, do we either release this movie as an NC-17 or we cut it again, resubmit it? That's another, I think it was $10,000 or something like that he said at the time, or whatever it was. And they're like, well, no, we're just going to do it unrated. Fuck it. And then when they did Basketball, because they wouldn't tell them, because that was the thing. The clincher was, tell us what we need to cut so we can get it to be an R rating. And they said, that's not what we do. We cannot dictate what the art comes out of the artist, blah, 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 all this other bullshit. But when they started working with Universal on Basketball, he said, we got nothing but notes. He's like, instantly, they told us exactly what we had to cut, how many seconds of what we had to cut, what scenes had to go, what could be said, what couldn't be said. And he was like, it was a whole different fucking world. So he's like, we knew exactly what to expect going in there with South Park Bigger and Longer and Uncut. So we put things specifically in that movie that we knew were going to get cut out. Same thing with Team America. So like when you guys watch Team America, if you're seeing the unrated version, that's technically what they would call the version we sent to the MPAA to get the R-rated cut. The cut we wanted. So their version is the R-rated cut.
Yeah.
Because they, at that time, they knew how to play the MPAA. They knew exactly what to do to get what they wanted out of them. So they, oh, cut this, cut this, cut this. Yep, bingo. We got our R-rated cut we wanted. And that's how they played the system. It's a great documentary. I suggest you check it out. So, but this is one of those few cases the unrated version is not the version they want out there necessarily. So they don't really care for it. It's just, it's got added bullshit in it just that was meant to get cut out.
Almost literally when you actually say it, use those words. Yeah.
They meant to cut it out to begin with. It was all in there on purpose to get cut out. So like the puking and all that shit. Captain Fandom Nerd has been here for 20 months at the Midnighter level, almost a 2-year member. Thank you so much, Captain Fandom Nerd. That's amazing. Shadow Dancer the Red Mage says Doomcock stated he watched Woke Hard season 3 episode 1 and his opinion is too little too late. It is still Kurtzman Trek, bad reinterpretations all around. That's a fair assessment on his part.
Yeah, that's his opinion. And,
that's his opinion.
Very
And
little
he's,
to say about that.
yeah, he's totally he watched it at least. I mean, and people can't knock him for that, at least, I guess. Pinochet's helicopter tour says Script Doctor is the strike related to late 2019 one.
I don't have all the details on that. I think a couple of the issues that they didn't resolve in that strike are brought up this time around, but there's and I don't have again, I don't have all the details, but there are some other issues that are being brought up that are also being addressed. So
yeah, this sounds like a bigger
hopefully
deal.
They'll be
this
revealed
time.
as we get closer to the actual negotiation date.
But yeah, from my understanding, that deal in 2019 was more of a band-aid to a bigger problem, is what it.
Yeah,
my
it was regarding like packaging and a couple of other stuff where essentially writers were end up becoming the workers, the employees of their representation, which is a huge conflict of interest.
Oh yeah, that was that other part of that. I remember now, because that was about time you first came in. I was just gonna say. Now I remember that conversation with you.
Yeah, that's how I fired my manager and agent, because they basically tried to become my bosses on a couple of projects, and their salaries were eating so much into the budget that the entire studio that was interested in producing it was like, no, we can't afford to do it like this. And it took a while to find out about that afterwards, because I was lost for me and my representation. We were lost for weeks wondering, oh, why didn't they go with it? They liked everything. We were getting to the early stages to get ready for casting, and all of a sudden, sorry, nope, too expensive.
Wow. Yeah. I was curious because there's above the line and below the line. Are writers considered above or below the line?
They're technically above the line on TV and below the line on film because the script's already purchased. And if they do get a negotiated contract for like on-set rewrites and stuff like that, they're kind of above the line, but they're on the low end of above the line.
I always, because I ask you that because I always viewed it as writers are the people who are, they're above the line as far as the credits are concerned, but they're below the line as far as how they're paid. But again, it all depends on how you negotiate it, I suppose.
There's a lot of staff writers on television shows that aren't paid a lot. And then there's other shows where staff writers are paid quite well. And then there's the showrunner, which gets a huge salary, and the showrunner's assistant, which gets usually pretty good money as well. And then if you're a director for a TV pilot, not only do you get paid for the pilot, but you get paid for every subsequent episode after that you're not even really involved with. And then you have the actors, and the actors get paid a lot because chances are after that gig, they're not getting another one for a while unless they're really, really good. So they negotiate a sum to tide them over between jobs. It's a whole crazy industry.
Yes. And the line. Okay, well, it means a few things, I guess.
It's essentially like a pay threshold.
Yes, a pay threshold, credit threshold. because especially when you get into negotiate, because when you get a lot of writers, it used to be you can only have so many writers credited, wasn't it? And then they changed that, right? On certain things.
It depended on how much of the work was done by each individual writer to earn a credit. So if it was a balanced amount, or at least over a certain amount of pages or percentage, they would be entitled to have a credit, and it most likely would have been a title card shared with the other writers. And a lot of writers try to negotiate for a singular title card just because that people can pay attention to one name solely on a screen a lot easier than 6. So that's usually what we go for.
So aside from status, a better example than a writer, because like you said, it's kind of convoluted and get goofy. A better example of this would be like Stan Winston. Okay, when you always saw Stan Winston's name in a movie, him doing the special effects for something, it wasn't just Stan. It was his whole fucking team, right? He has a whole team of people that work with him, but he's above the line. He gets the credit, no matter who does it, right? Like,
he's the organizer, he's the developer, and he's hired his staff to help him achieve the results that you see on your screen.
So he's above the line. His team is below the line. That's kind of the best way I can.
And what's really funny is that in the actual budgetary thing, he would also be considered part of the below the line cost.
Technically, yes, but I just use that as
it's a great analogy. Yes.
Yeah, it's a best example of kind of, because there is a lot of that in, like, you have editors and they have their team, and you have this and they have their team, and they have the stunt team, and other things like that. That you have certain people that'll get credit in the credits, but then the rest of the team doesn't always. That has changed over the years, and that's why credits are 20 minutes long now. So, because it used to be that's how the credits would go. It's like you only get it's real estate, man. We only got 3 minutes here. We're not going to give every single person
their own title card. Yeah,
the guy who swept out the fucking studio is not getting credit.
He's not getting a sole credit 20 minutes into the actual feed. Yeah,
now they do. No, not necessarily, but they technically probably do. They're probably called Teamsters. Mr. Buttcrack Media has been a member for 4 months. Thank you so much, Mr. Buttcrack Media. We appreciate that. And then Yankee Doodle Dandy says, Andre, American Splendor is a good film. Yes, it is. It's an excellent film. It needs a Blu-ray release. I don't think it's been released on Blu-ray. I don't think
it hasn't. And it's one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. And what I appreciate with it is that too is a comic book movie, as is Road to Perdition, and quite a few others which are far away from the superhero genre, which are just like social realism. And American Splendor is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made.
Yeah, that was kind of in that time we had like Ghost World, Road to Perdition, a few others. Was it Lake House? Is that one that's also based on a comic? That are based on comics, but you just wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a brilliant one, and it's in dire need of a Blu-ray release.
I mean, there was kind of an era of graphic novels after Watchmen that it kind of had a little renaissance of sorts, I guess. So you had Mouse and some other ones that came out, and they were kind of just not necessarily superhero fare, but
this one was quite a bit before Watchmen. Watchmen, I believe, was 2009. This was 2003. But still, brilliant movie. It's an HBO original.
Oh, the movie-wise, yeah. I'm talking about book-wise, but
yeah.
And The Losers, History of Violence. What else was there?
Oh, yeah, History of Violence and The Losers, yeah. Kick-Ass was kind of the end of that kind of, like I say, those two were kind of like bridges between the two. Like, because they were superhero, but they're not, you know what I mean? Like... Yeah, no, those are great. Those are all in that kind of pantheon of comic book movies that aren't necessarily remembered as comic book movies. Red is one that also kind of falls in there. Sin City,
Red wasn't bad. Helen Mirren kicked ass in that.
Yeah, the second one was, but yeah. I like John Malkovich in those two. He was one of the saving graces. But anyhow, John Thomas says, are the Tintin comics getting re-edited because of something is problematic? Andre, are you aware of anything like this happening?
I have not heard anything to that end. The thing with the Tintin books, or Tintin, as it's more correctly pronounced, as Paul Chato likes to point out, is that they actually did their censoring years ago, because the first 2 Tintin books are only limited available in a very limited fashion. Like most countries where Tintin was translated and released, the first 2 books, and that would be Tintin versus in the Land of the Soviets and Tintin in the Congo. The 2 of those, they were generally not really released other than the original release in France, but they weren't released in Norway, weren't released in Sweden, Denmark, or anything like that. Or if they were, much, much later on, they were released in English, but again, only in the last decade or 20 years or so as a specialty. But beyond that, no, not really. To my awareness, there hasn't been any kind of like major rewriting or reworking of Tintin. There really isn't too much to take. Well, of course, you can always find something problematic,
There's
I
been a
guess.
couple of accidental mistranslations in the cartoon, because I think in the first episode it's about drug smuggling, but because it was marketed for kids, they tried to hide the drugs part, but they kept on screwing up because every once in a while they'll let it slip. So like that's the closest I think they got to it, but nobody actually ended up caring as a result, because those little TV cartoon movies that they made were such a hit when they came out. That they're just like, oh, we're just going to adapt this as best we could overall, and it's a beautiful series. It's like almost 35 years old or older. Really well done.
Much more, yeah. It's like that animated series is from like the late 80s, early 90s, and Natasha points out, Tintin is indeed Belgian, not French. Sorry about that, but it's kind of like the Franco-Belgian comics. You just include Belgium with them because they're so tonally similar to the French comics. But yes, Belgian for Tintin.
Great series, by the way. If you haven't seen Tintin, go read the comic books, see the cartoon shows. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. And then we got Paulus Plain, who sends in 100 Norwegian krona. Says, Tom, no, Andre, freedom and wisdom and education. In primetime Norway, you can see uncensored birth. In primetime USA, censored birth.
This is true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, depends. Like PBS will show all kinds of shit like that, though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like on prime time, on like the state channel, you'll have like full frontal examination of genitalia. So, yeah.
I even think in the UK they have a television show that's like a dating television show that does full nudity uncensored.
Yeah, they do. It's called like what's it called again? Well, like Dated Nate. No, there's been a few of those.
Cable has gotten a lot more lax too.
Dating thing, and also you also have like basically the nude version of Survivor. I know that. Like,
Naked and Afraid.
I was gonna say we had that here.
No, but that's pixelated.
Well, yeah, but here's what I was just going to say. That's because network can't. They cannot. Public TV can get away with just about everything, but that's usually in a medical situation or whatever, and it's usually educational. So they don't have anything titillating on there. Cable, on the other hand, unless, you know, that one guy in Office Space, hey, man, turn on Channel 12. They're doing the breast exam again. You know?
Dietrich Bader's great.
Dietrich Bader's character. Yeah. But no, like in cable in the last 10, 20 years, there's been a big change in what they will, because they always could, but they chose because of, you know, for advertising reasons. A lot of advertisers wouldn't advertise on certain things, but like they started showing a lot more stuff uncensored, or like the shows that would actually have nudity and stuff like that in them. Like, and as far as I know, they show them on the networks that way too in cable. Like back in the day, they even had some risque stuff in like Mad Men and a few other shows. And then like recently with like Yellowstone and stuff, it's got full on nudity and stuff in it all the time. I'd imagine that they don't cut that out on the TV airings, do they? Or
they did on the network airing, but on the streaming stuff, they did not.
Yeah. But I know on the cable side, they don't have to technically.
And I just remembered, like Ora was told behind the scenes here, Naked Attraction is the name of that UK naked dating show. There's been like versions of it in several other European countries since then. So
There you
yeah,
go.
but yeah, no, plenty nudity on Norwegian TV and many other European channels.
And I'm sure there's other shows that I haven't watched or am aware of that have been on cable that do have nudity and other more risque stuff. So, but I just can't think of any at the moment. Oh, Sons of Anarchy, did that ever have anything on it? I don't remember.
Some, but not a lot. I mean, similar level as The Shield. So like,
Well, there's another episode there. Well, The Shield is also
on
an FX show or whatever too there. So yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. There was that era, like they started like
that was cable, so they could get away with things.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, on cable in the US, it's been like less taboo now, but yeah, other network, it's kind of getting more. It's not as bad as it used to be, in that sense. But yeah. Anyway, we got to wrap this up here, kids. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate everybody's support today. And of course, check out Paul Chato's channel, check out Culture's channel, check out Script Doctor's channel. What do you got going on, Script? Any Vicoding or anything going on anytime soon?
I don't know. I'm expecting a phone call later today, but I did drop on my Patreon the 1999 screenplay, unproduced screenplay review of Ghostbusters Hellbent, written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. And I also dropped a short on my YouTube channel, which is a snippet from one of the videos that you can find exclusively on my Patreon if you're a Max member or higher. So if you're interested in getting the review and checking out that screenplay, which actually has some very prophetic descriptions of what hell would be like, that you could probably draw a direct allegory to what's currently happening in California.
Wow.
Good 24, 25 years before the events.
I think we need to have a script reading script.
Well, it's a little tricky because this was one of those Xerox auto scan scripts. So they basically put the 122 pages into the feed, the tray feed, and then walked away. And so there's 5 pages missing, but they're not consistent 5 pages are random throughout there. So you miss a couple of bits, but the entire story is there. What they do with the classic characters, now they introduce new ones. I go through it all in that review, and you can then check it out for yourself afterwards.
There you go. And then we had another super chat here from Miguel Farah, who says, if Mitz Pizlik confuses Tom, let's talk about, what is that, Zed-Laws?
I don't know. It's
Zardoz?
Greek to me.
I don't know. It's all Greek to me.
It looks upside down.
Looks upside down. I don't know what it is. Thank you, Miguel, for that. And with that, I don't know if there's going to be 4K for you this week. I'm not sure if there was big enough announcements, but I'll try and do one. I've been feeling under the weather, so maybe not. But with that, Andre, as usual.
With that, as usual, it's time for one more super chat. Paulus Plain says for 50 Norwegian krona,
Yes.
Midnight Edge, I love you all and love from Norway. Oh, thank you. That is much
Thank you,
Paulus.
And we love you too.
Yes. And
Totally not
with
gay.
that, it is time for some of those koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koalas in the rain.